Hi there, my name is Daniel Scott and I'm an Adobe certified instructor. Together, you and me are going to learn how to become a user experience designer using the software Adobe XD. Together, we'll use this UI UX software to create beautiful user interfaces as well as really streamlined user experiences. During this course, we'll work through an actual freelance project that I have on at the moment. It needs both a website and an app built. So it'll give you a really good idea of how to kind of manage your own UX projects. Now this course is aimed at complete beginners. So there's no need to have any experience in design or UI or UX. You don't even need to know what those terms mean yet. We're gonna start right at the beginning and work our way through step by step. First, you'll learn how to construct a good brief and UX persona. Then you'll learn how to create some simple wireframes. From there, you'll learn how to implement colors and images properly in your designs. You'll learn all the do's and don'ts when it comes to web and mobile fonts. We'll also cheat a little by exploring some of the pre-made UI kits that can really speed up your workflow. We'll build a prototype, both a website design and a mobile app design, connecting pages and adding full interactivity ready for user testing. I'll share with you all the secret tricks inside Adobe XD that can really help you speed up repetitive tasks. Learn how to run your own user tests and then make the necessary updates based on those tests. You'll know how to make both simple and advanced micro interactions and transitions. Before the end of this course, you'll have fully interactive prototypes for your website and your app that you can share with your clients. We'll impress your colleagues with realistic mockups, all the way through to exporting the right files and getting all your design specs ready. So throughout the course, you'll be working on an actual project. But as well as that, I'll set assignments, not homework. Okay, for you to complete, I'll give you the brief, I'll give you the files, and I'll set some tasks. And that will mean you'll be able to develop your own skills, but also you'll be able to create your own projects ready for your own portfolio. So I hope you're ready to upgrade yourself, learn Adobe XD, and become a user experience designer. I'll see you in class. Is this driving you mad? It's like upside down, and what does it even say? It says iLab, I think, or iLib. Anyway, it's a cool little New Zealand brand, and it drives my Irish friends mad, so I wear it all the time. But that's enough, I will see you in class. Hey there, you made it in the course, welcome. A couple of things before we get started is that you need to download the exercise files. So I've got some files that you can use to play along with the course. There'll be a link on the page here somewhere to download those, so do that first. Next step, we need to make sure that XD is the latest version of the version. Okay, so we just need to make sure your XD is the best it can be. So we'll jump into the computer now and I'll show you how to do that. All right, so first thing is you need to have downloaded the Adobe XD software to your computer. Okay, you can go to, you can actually just go to adobe.com/XD and it will take you to this page here. And then along the top, you will have, once it reloads, there'll be an option to say, it's free. There you go. Go and download it. Okay, so once you've downloaded it, you might already have it on your computer. Then once you've got it, you need to double check you've got the latest version. So I've got it open here. Okay, this is XD. I'll close that one down, he's confusing. So you've downloaded it, installed it, but you did it a few months ago. Unlike some of the other Adobe products, XD gets updated really quickly, so you just gotta make sure you've got the latest version. So to do that, you go to the app. Okay, so the Creative Cloud app is this little kind of curly cloud thing here. Click on it at the top if you're on a Mac. If you're on a PC, it's in your taskbar down the bottom. Just look for that icon. Make sure you're on apps and then scroll down until you find XD. If it says open, you are ready to go. If it says update, you need to click on it and update it. If you don't have or can't find the CC app, you can just open up the product. Okay, so find it on your machine, open it up, go to help and go to updates and you'll end up in the same place, but it'll kind of like drag you there. There you go. Now to note about this course, Adobe are pouring lots of time and effort and money into updating XD and keeping it fresh. So I feel like there's an update every week or two. So what I'll do is when there are any significant updates or anything noteworthy, what I'll do is I'll create a new video at the end of this entire course called updates. And in there I will throw all of the, any updates that might have come in. So if there's no such video at the moment, that means there's no such updates, but eventually there will be. All right, so we've got our exercise files. You've made sure XD is installed and up to date. Let's get started. All right, a couple of things we need to discuss before we move on is some of the terminology that gets used in both this course and in the industry, just so that you know what I'm talking about when I'm going through the course. The main ones are, if you've ever seen like job applications online where they say you need to be a UX UI designer or a product designer. So we'll cover kind of what those are and what the different responsibilities are. Now, before we go on, for me, I act as all of them. Okay, I work as a freelancer, so I take on small projects and I have to do it all. So I'll discuss what they all are individually. And basically, if you're in a small 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 man agency or design shop, you are going to be it. You're going to be the UI designer, the UX designer, and the product designer. And if you're working at larger companies, larger organizations, or bigger agencies, you might be split off and be one of these things individually. So, what is it? UI designer is the person responsible for making things. Okay, so you'll be looking at kind of, say it's a website design, you'll be looking through consistent icons you'll be building, you'll be looking at fonts and colors, kind of visual themes throughout the app or web design. So you're a UI designer, user interface, looking at the page furniture or the things that are on the page. So you can be just that, okay? A UX designer often is all of the UI stuff, plus you are looking at both the brief and the users that are going to be using it, so maybe the personas that you've built, okay, and building for that, and then testing that, okay, so working through the actual testing, and then coming back and adjusting. So UI designer often won't have that other part, okay? So yeah, that's a UX designer. You do the UI, but there's kind of some other parts around it which we'll discuss in that course. So that's the UX designer. All right, the last term we'll cover is a product designer. So what is a product designer versus a UX designer? Now, often, if I'm a product designer, what I'll be is I'll be a UX designer as well as a product designer, but I'll have more responsibility in a team. And you can't really be a product designer in a small agency or by myself like I am. You need to be in a bigger company because often the product designer has a lot of managerial roles. Okay, so you'll be in charge of not only the UI and the kind of user testing, but you'll be working with the stakeholders, the clients, and getting direction from them. You'll be working with the engineering team who's actually building this thing, potentially the UI designers, multiple UX designers, and you'll be making sure everyone's kind of heading in the right direction, pulling in the right way. It's not the word, but you know what I mean. So a product designer has kind of a global kind of sense of the product from lots of different teams, and we'll deal with them all individually and kind of make sure everyone's going the same way. Okay, so you'll be in charge of kind of making sure budgets are hit, timelines are hit, meetings are held. You'll be doing all the meetings and the stand-ups. So product designer, I guess, yeah, is a bigger role. If you're kind of from maybe traditional design, think of it like a studio manager. Okay, there's a bit more kind of organizational things involved. So to recap, product designer, okay, will look after the entire project with lots of people, make sure it's all going well and is working perfectly on budget and is working for the users and is all on the right timeline. Okay, not sure I'm waving my hands out here, but feels lofty, that role. Okay, then there's a UX designer whose sole focus is on the user. Okay, they want to make sure within the budgets that they've been given by the product designer, okay, and the timeline budgets, they want it within those boundaries. They want to make sure that the user experience is amazing. Whatever the goals are, they're getting hit, and you will test them and design and get it ready. And if you're a UI designer, often you're kind of lacking the testing phase. Okay, you are looking at the more kind of traditional way of working when we're building websites, where it's just kind of like getting it up, getting it out. And the other thing to look at is that if you're at a small place or doing your own stuff like me, you are all of these. Okay, so you're just trying to make it all happen. But those are the kind of key terms you need to understand when somebody's advertising for a product designer. You know, if you're brand new, you might not be ready for that because you've never run a stand-up which is kind of a meeting where everyone stands up. Quick meetings in the mornings, but you enjoy the, the user experience design side of it, but maybe not the product designer side. Other thing to note is that most people, the term gets used real loosely, all of them. So you'll see, students will email and say, is this a job that I can do? And somebody said, I want a graphic designer, web designer, UX designer, videographer, product designer. And they've just kind of thrown it all in there because it's either going through an HR company that's not too sure about the roles, or they're just looking for somebody who could be the best. It's a junior role and it's got product designer in there. So often you need to really clarify with whoever's got, don't say I'm not going to do it, okay? You need to find out what the role involves because they just kind of, often jobs can be too vague, okay? And what they really need is somebody who's, a really good print designer, but they've just thrown in other things. So really kind of find out from whoever's advertising the job, what the key kind of, what the high percentage of that job work is going to be, what field, because nobody can be amazing at all of them. So check that out. Now, lastly, in this course, we're looking at being a UX designer. Okay, so we're gonna look at briefs, we're gonna look at the personas, take those into account, make a beautiful product, test it, come back, make it amazing, and yeah, that's gonna be our job in this course. And we're gonna use Adobe XD to do it. All right, that's it. Let's get into the next video. We'll quickly look at our brief and the personas that we're gonna use to build our product in this course. All right, let's jump in there now. Okay, so before we get started, I want to quickly just outline the brief for this project because this is an actual project from one of my clients. I thought that'd be a nice way to kind of explore XD through an actual project. So what we had to do is kind of the UX research side of things, and we had to build out a client brief, which I'll show you here, and we had to build out the persona, okay, just like who the target audience is going to be. So let's have a little look here on the screen at both what the client sent me as an initial brief and then what we had to actually move it into so we had an actual project to work through. All right, so let's check it out here now. Okay, so first up, like any good creative job, you got to kind of get the brief right, especially for UX, because often the client, especially the clients I deal with, haven't really run through a lot of UX projects before. So I guess unsure what's covered, what's not covered, those sorts of things. So a brief is always essential for any project, right? So I figured I'd show you the one that we got. So this is the brief we got from the client. So basically it was pretty thin. They've got a website, bringyourownlaptop.com, and they've built this kind of back end for it for their trainers to use, and they want to kind of just release it to other trainers to start using, to potentially use it as a product. Okay, so they want a website, they want an app, they very, very, very kind of basic. So what I did is I had a little look through their details, okay, through their analytics for their website. I know a bit about them because I've dealt with them before, but basically I went through the kind of UX research project, working out who the competitors were, what the product does, its USPs, who the potential users would be, okay, and built out a brief. So this is the thing that I emailed them, okay, and basically just covers the basics of most briefs, okay. Let's just quickly run through it. If you're not interested, you can just skip on and we'll start making XD stuff. But in this case, okay, project name, description, okay, just kind of, basically that's what they've said. Just kind of outlining the description. Who's it for is quite important. Okay, so we built a persona. I'll show you that in a second, what the persona actually looks like. But this is what we agreed with the client, who the potential persona is. Now, the big thing with personas is that you can guess and you can have a best guess, but you need to revise potentially who your persona might be, because you might go, yeah, it's definitely this person, but you need to allow wiggle room and better spelling and grammar. Okay, so we've built out who we think the client is for. We built out a features list, okay, just to make sure that we know what's actually going into the wireframes at the beginning, what the important parts are. Okay, we leave out things like a footer or other features that are kind of just normal there. The contact us page needs to be there, all of that stuff. So this is the kind of unique stuff for this project. Competitors and product inspiration, this just helps us know and the client know that we're aligned in terms of this is the kind of thing we're building, okay? Deliverables, this is super important. So we go through two parts. There's wireframing and then there's high fidelity. Basically, high fidelity means, wireframes are really simple. High fidelity has all the fonts and colors and images. So we build wireframes purely just for client approval. Okay, I don't go out and test wireframes. We'll talk about that later on. Then we build a high fidelity prototype, and then we go out to some user testing. Based on the user testing, we'll do a usability report, and that can be big or small. Basically just feeds back what you found out in your user testing. Then once that's all finished and we've tidied up any of the problems with the user testing, we'll grab all of the UI assets for the developers. And that just means giving them images and code and icons and symbols so they can build either the app or the website. So that's where our job's gonna finish. Okay, so I always have a not included just in case the client, just to kind of make sure the boundaries are set nice and clear. So they've asked us to prototype the back end, okay, which is the kind of instructor side of this website. There is also a student side of it, which they've already got developed. So they don't want us to redesign that. So I'm just making sure it's clear. They told me that it's clear. We're not covering that because they expect to use their kind of current systems, the instructor side that we're going to be testing. Costs, okay, so this is what I charge for this job. Jobs vary. Often they kind of start at about $2.5 US and get up to about 10 grand for larger projects. This one here, basically I work out what my day rate is, and it's roughly about $800. And then I kind of work out how many days I need to work with something like a timeline. Add in a bit of a buffer and then give them an hourly rate after that. So that if they do start asking for stuff that's not covered in the deliverables, you can say, sure, I can do that, but it's gonna probably take me another half day. And then they know your hourly rate, so they know that it's gonna cost X, Y, and Z. And I find that's a good way from stopping the job to creep out. So job creep happens with every job. They go, oh, can you quickly just add this extra little thing? And you're kind of, oh yeah, you add it, and you'll decide later on if you bill them for it or not. And then the job overruns, and you either surprise them with a giant bill or you just suck in those costs, which suck. So I make sure that at the beginning I give them a set cost because that's what everyone wants. Nobody wants an hourly rate, but give them an hourly rate as well so that when you're chatting and they're like, oh, hey, can you also do this? And you're like, sure, it's going to probably take me 3 hours. They know what your hourly rate is and you can add it to your bill and everyone's clear right from the beginning. I always ask for 50% payment up front, okay, to start the work. There's so many jobs that I end up starting that never kind of get finished. So I like to make sure I get 50% up front so I can cover my costs for the initial part. It's the most important part, the kind of doing the UX research and working out the features. That's a kind of the super important part to the job, I think. So I always ask for a percentage up front. You might ask for something smaller than that, but 50% is quite common. And then 50% on completion. Deadlines, okay, every job's a little different, but yeah, this is what we've done. So there's a kind of a them and me. So I'll do the user research to get started with. The wireframes get delivered to bring your laptop, then they give me feedback by this certain date, then I give them the high fidelity, then they give me feedback on that high fidelity, and then it actually goes to user testing. And then we're allowed for a couple of weeks for user testing. This can be different, depends on how, for this project, we're going to do a lot of what's called hallway testing or over-the-shoulder testing. We're going to try and meet up with people to do physical live stuff, find people that match our persona and actually work with them. Now, again, we're not going to cover full-on testing here. I've got another course for that. Check out how to be a UX designer for some of the testing techniques. But yeah, we're going to do over-the-shoulder stuff. Plus, we'll probably do some unmoderated testing where we go to, say, usertesting.com. I find is really useful, and you can just send it to them and people record themselves. Cheap, it's quick, and it's something you don't have to organize meetings for, and you have recordings so you can snip out bits so you can show the client some of the results. Okay, then there will be a user testing and completed report and basically just feedback about this is what happened in the user testing, these are the changes we're going to make, and you make those changes. And once the final changes have been done, we'll hand over the assets to the developer to get built. Which in this case would be, I'll probably end up doing the web side of things, okay, at least the front-end web design stuff, but the app and the back-end development will have to be done by a developer, which is totally out of my zone. I'm more of the creative side, the front-end side. So yeah, that is the kind of brief that we sent through to the client. Always make sure that, because I bet you, I 100% promise that this will not get hit the 4th of December. Mainly because of the feedback, okay? So your client will see this date and say they'll do it, but things will just turn up late. And it'll just be 1 or 2 days late. And I just make sure as soon as it is a couple of days late, I revise the next timeline. Okay, so that they know that it's them that pushed it out. So when it is like 2 months overdue, it's not because of me, it's because of their poor feedback. Okay, so be really kind of rigid at the beginning, saying that, yep, it needs to be here by this date. And as soon as they're late, add that to the time and just kind of push that out, because this is going to look long if it pushes over to the next year, because it is going to add like another couple of weeks in the middle over Christmas. So we should have been handing this over kind of mid-December, and before you know it, it's February. And they had in their head middle of December. So just be very clear about timelines and deadlines. Now, again, this is my process. You might be working in an agency and that $4,000 just wouldn't cover their rent. So you might be starting in the $5,000 and ending in the $50,000 mark, depending on how large the project is. You might be just getting started and you might be taking on work a lot cheaper than that. Okay, you might be doing designs for $1,500 or even $500 to get your first job. But I figured I'd show you where I'm at as a freelance UX designer, so you've got some sort of idea of pricing and timelines and briefs. Let's have a quick look at the persona that got made. All right, so this is the persona that we built for this project. Now, the initial brief kind of had a rough outline. What we've done since then is some UX research into who this person is most likely to be. And the nice thing about this particular client is that they have lots of Google Analytics and have a strong YouTube channel. So it was easy to get in there and see actual hard data about who's using the channel, who's using their product, and then talking to the client about who this potential person could be. Okay, so then what goes into this will really depend on your project. So we've given this guy a name, Peter. That's a fake stock library image, but I feel like it represents the person. We give him an age, his job title, and a place he lives. Okay, now what goes in here, what you really want to do is be able to communicate, well, after reading this, know the person. Okay, so do you need to write down the toothpaste he uses or the car he drives? Potentially, but potentially not. If it's a Prius or a Ferrari, that's kind of an indication potentially of what kind of person he is. Okay, so I've seen some personas that just get into like minutia detail. I guess what you want in there is just so you can have enough in here to kind of walk away and go, I understand where Peter's coming from in relation to my product. Okay, so it could be shorter than this, probably not much shorter, but I wouldn't make it too much longer either. So have a read through this just so you understand who Peter is while we're doing this project. What I've done for you is in the exercise files, there is a folder called Persona Template, and you can use this if you want. There's an Illustrator file, and you can switch out the images and fonts and stuff and use it if you like. You have total permission to use it. But yeah, have a read through and see how Peter does things. So have a read through and understand Peter and its position so that when we're building an XD, we can make some decisions based on what Peter would want, not what the client wants and not what I want personally. All right, so that's the brief and personas. Let's get on to the next video. All right, so we're gonna start wireframing in XD. Now, wireframing or low fidelity, okay, is the term used often. High fidelity just means the version with the fonts and the colors and the images. Okay, it looks exactly like the final product. The wireframing or low fidelity just has one font, one color, real basic layout. Now, for me, the wireframing is probably the most important part. That's the bit where me as a designer, that's where my value comes from, I guess, is working out the user flow, okay, how they get from A to B, how long it takes, how many steps, how easy it is. That sort of wireframing is where most of the value comes from for me as a designer. Even though I love the high fidelity stuff, the wireframing I find is quite important. Now, do you test the wireframes? I use wireframes to send to the client so they can check it to make sure that everything's in the right place, but I don't use it for actual testing for actual end users or the personas. You can. I find I'm quick enough at getting the high fidelity versions ready for testing, and I prefer to test with those with all the right marketing material, right imagery, fonts, and all that sort of stuff in there. So yeah, the other thing is in terms of wireframing, I'll do them by hand first. Like I'll use something like this in my book real quick. This doesn't go to anybody but me. Okay, so I'll hold it up, the microphone disappears and you can't really hear me. Hopefully you can see that.
Maybe you can even hear me. But yeah, it's just real basic outlines. There's pages and pages of these, and I just go through and kind of flesh out the ideas, where everything needs to be going, and then start building in XD. Just quicker this way. You might prefer go straight to computer. That's fine too. Yeah, so let's actually go get started in XD now and look at some of the UI kits. Finally, XD time. He keeps promising it. I promise, next video.
Hi there, this video is all about working out how wide your design should be. Okay, so we're doing website, but this works for mobile devices as well and apps. How wide should my first page be? There's some easy tricks to work it out. Let's get started now. All right, I promised you we'd get started, and we are, kind of. Let's open up XD, and the first thing we need to do is work out what to start with in terms of page sizes. So we're going to be working on a web first design, okay, because all of our users at this existing company are using the product via the website first, and only a small percentage are using it via mobile. You'll have to decide on your product and what you're doing. Yours might be mobile first, so you just start with this. For this particular course, we're going to work with mobile and then build an app, but you might be working just with an app or an iPad app, depending on what you're doing. So to get started with, just always pick this one to get started with, this 920 wide, okay, and we're going to change the size as we go along. So just click on this and it opens up a page. Let's save it. Let's go to File, let's go to Save. I'm going to put mine on my desktop. I'm going to make a new folder for it. This is my instructor HQ mockup. Okay, that's the folder that's going to go into. If you're on a PC, there's like a new folder icon up the top, or just dump it on your desktop. Now, if you are on a Mac and you can't see any of that because you're like, oh, it looks like this, click on this little arrow here. You'll be able to see a lot more of the details like favorites, and click on desktop. I've made a folder. I'm going to give this file a name. Okay, I'm going to call it Instructor HQ. And this one's the mockup. And this is going to be v1.0. Give it versioning numbers like this. Okay, and when you make teeny tiny changes, maybe spelling or just a little bit of changes, you'd resave it as 0.1. And if you make big fundamental changes, you'll change that kind of whole number there. Okay, it's just a good way of keeping track of where you're at, especially if you send versions out to a client and they're like, hey, have you done this? And you can double check they're looking at the right version and not like out of date version. Cool, save it. So in terms of the page width, okay, it says 1920, it's the pixels across, okay, the width, and that is too big for a website at the moment. Let me show you what I mean. So let's check out this website here. So you can see it stretches to the edge, but there's a kind of an internal boundary. That's why we use 1920, which is kind of like the full width of the screen that I'm using. Okay, and it's a really big screen and really common, really large size. But within here, we've got some like internal boundaries. Can you see everything kind of lines up within that little gap there? Like this one as well. You can see the color stretches to the edges, but the nav, our background does, but not the inside part. So there are some sites that do the full use of the screen, which is really cool. What we can't do at the moment though is within XD, see this one here responds. Can you see it adjusts as we work along? We can't do that in XD. We just have to pick a size and design for it. And then later on, we can adjust it for the different breakpoints, but really we can't make this happen until the website actually gets coded and done. So we need to pick a size. And how do we do that? Let's jump back into XD. So it's 1920 pixels across. So within here, we need to put some boundaries. How wide should it be? There's a couple of good ways to check. So one of them is under w3schools.com. This site here is just a handy resource for web design things. If you type in browsers, so /browsers, and if you come down to browsers display, you can start looking at things like in the whole wide world, in January 2018, what is the most common size? So in here, this is a really common size to be using at the moment. It changes all the time. It's going to jump up to that eventually, but at the moment, this is the kind of really common size. You can see 32%, 34% even of the world use that size. The next common is this. So if you hit this size and it all fits within this kind of width, okay, it means it's going to look fine on this, but these lower sizes, it's not going to quite fit in, but you can see the percentage is getting quite low. Now you need to decide who your clients are. So look at your persona. Remember our guy, Dave? I want to say Dave. I can't remember. I just gave him a name. He's a technology person, so he's going to have probably this size screen. So we're going to say this and above, if we use this size, it's going to cover everything. He's not going to likely have any of these lower ones. But say you're working with, a site that is maybe developing countries that don't have, not up-to-date screens.
you might go for something like this. 1024 is another common, like that's a smaller size that you want to go for. The other thing you can to double check is if you're working with a client who already has a website, and you can ask for them to check out their Google Analytics. So I've asked for access to theirs. Okay, so I looked at the analytics and they gave me a sign in. They can give you like a view only access, so you can't mess around with their stuff, but you can have a look. And what you're looking for is go to the audience, check out their technology, and I'm gonna look at their browser, wait for it to load. You can see they're all using Chrome. Okay, well, at least 67% of them. What I'm looking for is screen resolution here. You can see a large percentage of them are using this 1920, and you can see this 1366, a good percentage of them. And then it kind of, you can see this size here, okay, that kind of fits in between these, okay, so 1400 pixels across. So if I do this size, it's gonna capture this, because they're all, and you get some smaller ones in here down to 4%. So if you've already got stats, check it. The other thing you might check is if the client comes and says, yeah, let's really work on this website, you might find that really you should be working on either the mobile version first, or a mobile website version first, or an app. You can check if they've already got data like this. You can go into things like mobile, look at overview. You can see in here a huge majority of this particular website, 88% are using desktop. So if the client came to me and said, look, let's build this mobile app to refresh the site, or a mobile version of the website, I'd be like, oh, let's look at doing the desktop first, because this is where everybody, you might want it to be mobile, but really the majority of people are using it this way. You still might end up going this way, but at least gives you some data to actually talk about rather than looking at hunches. And as well, if you were going to be testing on a product to see how well this mobile phone is going, click on devices and it will tell you, like, you can see a huge percentage of them are using an Apple iPhone. And you can do some sneaky stuff by looking at screen resolution in here to decide like what version of the iPhone people are using. Often this can give it away. Old iPhones, newer iPhones. This will be an iPad, So, all right, so we've decided we're gonna use the size of 1366. So we're gonna jump into XD and put that in. Okay, so what we wanna do is we wanna keep this 1920 across, because we like to design, I guess, with just this extra stuff. This is the final thing we're gonna be making. We want this extra stuff on the side here, because designing within the 1316 can be really tight, and I like to see what happens with the flow on the outside. So what we're going to do is just set up a column, okay, in the middle here to give us that visual guide. That's this kind of like light blue thing here. So let's do it. Have the artboard selected. You click on the name at the top. That's the easiest way. Okay, click on the word here. And what we want to do is over here where it says grid, click on this, and where it says layout, okay, where this drop down is. We're not going to use square. It's done more for mobile or app design. We're going to use layout because we're doing the web one. Now, in terms of the columns, I'm not sure what's here by default, but what we're going to do is the easiest way to get it exactly what you need it to be is we're going to say we want one column. Okay, and click in any other box. You can see we've just got one kind of big column here. We're going to say I want this column width to be 1366. I'm going to click in any other box. And what it's done is it's worked out the padding here on either side is 277 either side. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to work within this wireframe just to this. I just want to know where those edges are, and that's it. I'm going to leave it there. You might be working to a grid system. Okay, and you might be a designer working to grids, or you might be a web designer and you have to use a framework that uses like a set of grids. It's just handy for consistent layout. If that is you now, change it back to 12. So do this thing first, get it the right width, and then divide it by 12 columns, click in the other field, okay, or tab out, and you can see it's just gone through and added a nice little grid. This doesn't export, okay, it doesn't preview in any of the devices, it's just here. So when you're drawing things out and you're trying to line things up, you can see it snaps to it. And it means you can start doing things where you get some consistency across, so everything fits within this grid system. We'll look at it a bit more when we get into the kind of high fidelity part of the course. So what I'd like to do though is click on the name. I'm going to turn mine back to 1. Make sure it's set to 1366. And what you might find is that sometimes the numbers jump around. It's because the divisions are quite hard to do. 1366 math-wise is quite hard to divide by 1920, so you might find this changes a little bit. So I'm just going to force it to be 1 by 1366. I'm going to make it my default, so every time I make a new page it's going to jump to this
The next thing we want to do is adjust the viewport height. It just means, remember when we looked over here at analytics, we looked at technology. Actually, let's jump to this one. Remember the kind of default display size was, there it is, 1366 by 768. Okay, so that's the kind of initial view or viewport height. Just means when somebody opens up the website on their screen, they're only going to see, they're not going to see 1080 pixels, they're just going to see 768. I'm going to hit return, and that little imaginary line here, it's not imaginary, it's there, but that line there doesn't print as well, doesn't come out. It's just there to show you this is your above the fold. This is your stuff that people will all see based on if they are using that screen. So you're going to make sure all your call to actions above here, or your hero images are above this line here. Anything below here, okay, potentially has to be scrolled to see. Now what we're going to do is a bit of navigation. Okay, so the basic navigation before we move on is zooming in and out. There is a tool over here, which I never use. Okay, click on it, click once, you zoom in, hold down the Option key on a Mac or the Alt key on a PC, and click once and it zooms out. What you'll find is you'll never use it because you'll use the shortcut. Now we're not going to go into too many shortcuts, but there's just some that are just, the tool is too hard to use. So on a Mac, hold down the Command key. So look down at your keyboard, it's the Apple key, and hit the plus on your keyboard. And that'll zoom in. Okay, if you hold down the minus, so Command key down, hold minus, it zooms out. Okay, so plus, 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 zooms in, Command minus, 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 zooms out. If you're on a PC, it's similar. You hold down the Control key. So look down, grab the Control key, and hit plus, plus, plus to zoom in, and minus, minus, minus to zoom out. The other thing we need to work out is how to move around. Unlike some of the other Adobe products, there's no kind of scroll bars here. So look down your keyboard, grab the spacebar key, hold that down. Your hand turns into a little hand. You click, hold, and drag it around. So give that a go. Hold spacebar, click, hold, drag. A couple more things before we go. Because we're looking at the grids here, they're quite dark, okay, and it's hard to design over the top. So you can click on, see this little colored box here where it says columns. Click on it once, and you can pick a different color if you like. I'm going to leave mine to whatever there was. I can't remember what it was. Vaguely this color, but I'm going to lower the opacity of it. Okay, so you might pick a different color, a different hue by dragging this around. Now I've really messed it up. Okay, and just lower the opacity. So there's a hint of it, so I know where the edges are, but it's not interfering too much with my design. Okay, I'm gonna click out. Two other things I wanna do, zoom out a little bit. Remember your shortcut, Command minus or Control minus on a PC. Click on the name, and what that does is it gives you the kind of overall settings for the artboard. That's what this is called, the big empty page. What I wanna do is I wanna be able to see the bottom slider here and make this quite long, because we're gonna add lots of bits and pieces to it. You'll end up changing this depending on your content, but I just want you to make it nice and long now. Plus what we want to do is rename the artboard. So you do that by double clicking it here, okay, and just deleting what's in there. And I'm going to call this one homepage even. And I might give it the pixel width just to help the developer later on, everybody know that that's how wide it is. I often do that, okay, just because the actual page is 1920 across, but I want to just say, look, that's what I'm designing for here. Nice, let's save it. File, save. I'm not going to do this long version anymore. I'm going to start using some of the easy shortcuts like Command S on a Mac or Control S on a PC. And we are ready to get into the next video. All right, let's jump over. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start building that navigation you saw at the beginning. And how we're going to do it, we're going to cheat. We're going to start with some other UI kits that are out there. And when we talk about UI kits, okay, that just means like a template. Somebody else has made them for us and it has a lot of the elements that we can use. That's going to help us go fast, especially at this kind of wireframe stage. Okay, so there's some that are kind of built into XD and I'll show you where to get other ones from. So in XD, if you go to File and under Get UI Kits, okay, there's these options in here. Okay, so we'll look at these ones here later on. The one we want is this one called wireframes. Now you'll click it, it'll take you to a website and get you to download it. Now what I've done for you is I've already downloaded this one and it's in your exercise file. So we'll go and open it. So let's go to File, let's go to Open, and in your exercise files, there's one called UI Templates. And I just downloaded them just to make it easier for this course. They're all in here. The one we want is in wireframes. Open that up, and we're starting with the web wireframe. Okay, let's click Open. All right, and this is the kind of template for wireframes. Okay, and it's It's really amazing. Like somebody's gone through and given us all the kind of like basic UI elements, the building blocks for a good wireframe. There's navigation, there's buttons, footers, all sorts of cool stuff. You can see somebody's done some landing pages, portfolios, real handy stuff to get started. Now, the one thing I want to cover here is that you might have a little button down the bottom that says you are missing fonts. And that's pretty unlucky for this particular one, but I know it has happened to my students. So watch this. If I zoom in and say, and if I click, 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 and keep clicking until I select some text, it says it's Arial. If you don't have Arial on your machine, that's weird. But I think George is used in this one as well. So let's say I'm going to fake it. I'm going to open up a product, UI kit that I know I definitely don't have the font for. So don't do this yourself. Just, I guess, I want to show you this thing. It says missing fonts. You're missing fonts. Okay. So what you do is it says there's 4 missing fonts. You click on show missing fonts. And unfortunately, that's kind of all the help it gives you at the moment. So XD is not particularly handy. It just says these are the missing fonts, Cyrillic. And this one here, Civil, I don't know, that font there. So if I copy that and close it, and I go off, there's no like magic one place. You just go to Google and say font download and see if you can find it and install it. That one there looks like it's on Dafont, free.net, all sorts of places. So try and download those. Another place you might try is Google Fonts. Okay, so fonts.google.com or fonts.adobe.com. You can often find a lot of the fonts used in templates here. I doubt you're going to find Arial in Georgia because they are so common. You're going to have to go to Google and just ask where they are. So let's say yours has opened and it's fine. Okay, I'm going to close it down. We're in the wires one. I'm going to zoom out. Okay, a couple little other navigation shortcuts that we need to learn is kind of, remember we've zoomed in and out. That was fine. So I zoom in, okay, and I'm in nice and close. If I want to come all the way back to see all my artboards, you hold Command 0 on your keyboard, okay, or that's on a Mac, and Control 0 on a PC. The other kind of two handy like navigation shortcuts you learn is you can use them in here. We're going to use this one that's Command 1, and we're going to use Command 3. Okay, so you can go this long way if you're like, man, too many shortcuts, Dan, too early for that. I'm not going to give you too many, just the ones that I think are really important, the ones you're going to have to learn real quick to make XD kind of usable for yourself. So the first one is Command 3. So it's Control 3 on a PC. If I click on this little dotted line at the top here, it's kind of, that little dotted line indicates I'm clicked on this whole artboard. Then I hit Command 3, Control 3 on a PC, it just zooms into your selection. So that's kind of handy. Some Command 0 to go back out, Command 3 to go, or just kind of see that selection. The other one is Command 1. Command 1 is kind of handy because it shows you 100%. So this is where you should be doing a lot of your design work, because this is the way that the user is going to see it. So you know, they're not going to see it zoomed in. They can't zoom in on a website or an app. You can because you're in design view, but you need to be making decisions at Command 1 on a Mac or Control 1 on a PC. Things like font size and how big the image is needs to be done at 100%. The other little thing with Command 3, where it zooms in, if you have something really small selected, ready, Command 3, wow, it's massive. Okay, so sometimes just clicking on the artboard and zooming in rather than having an individual object. Cool. All right, so what we want is we've got all these UI elements, and that's the cool thing about this web thing, right? Somebody's gone through and designed UI elements, things like footers, headers, buttons, there's landing pages pre-designed for you, just a great way to get started. What we're going to do is I'm going to use one of these headers here. I'll use this one here. I'm going to copy it. So edit, copy, okay, and jump to your other artboard. If you've got more than one artboard, you can kind of see them behind each other by dragging this top bar here. You can jump between windows this way, window. Okay, so that's the one that I've created, and that's the one I was looking at, and you can just toggle between these two. Or if you're super fancy, I hit Command and tilde on a Mac, or Command Tab on a PC, and that just toggles between them. But that might be one too many shortcuts for one video. Okay, so we'll cover them again later on in the course, but I'm going to paste it in here, and we're going to run into our, not first problem, but our first thing to kind of identify. If I undo that, so edit, undo, okay, which is Command Z or Control C on a PC, you'll see my assets panel here. If you can't see the assets panel, it's one of these two icons down the bottom here. It's the top one. You can see I have nothing going on in here. But if I paste something, all this stuff appears. Like, where did these symbols come from? So the designer who made this original wireframe here has made symbols, which we'll look at together later on. But for us, it's going to cause us issues, mainly because they are linked. So if I change this one, it's going to update that original one in here. So we want to just break the link. The easiest way is to right click it, okay, and go to, where does it say? Unlink symbol. That little green link icon goes away. And now we've got these things over here. You can leave them there. They're not going to do much, but I don't need them. So I'm going to click on you, hit delete on my keyboard, click on you, right click them, delete. I'm going to select both of them at the same time and delete them. So just get rid of those symbols. It's not what I want. I didn't make them. Cool. So this thing here is all still grouped. That's fine. I'm going to kind of drag it towards the top. And the cool thing about XD is it's got really helpful smart guides. So if you're zoomed out far enough, remember our shortcut, Command 0 or Control 0. Okay, so you can see the whole thing. If you drag it, you'll see it just eventually wants to snap in there, which is really handy. Now it's all grouped in one little unit. What we're going to do is right click it and say ungroup. So hopefully now I can click off in the background and they're all kind of separate little pieces. See all these buttons here? Because what I want to do is with it ungrouped, I want to grab this blue box and I want to drag out the side to the right and grab that little dot to the edge there, just so it kind of spans there. I'm going to keep the navigation where it is. It's kind of handy there, but I want to just push that blue bar to the edges. All right, so we've got started. We've used an existing template to get kind of the basics going. I showed you what happens when you don't have the right fonts. Often I just ignore the fonts and go and change my own ones now. So see these guys here, I know that guy is Arial. I can just go change it to something else that I've got on my machine. We also know that often things can be turned into symbols and have that little green link. You can right click it and unlink it and ungroup it just so it's all its nice little constituent bits, because we don't need that XD logo there. We're going to go and switch that out in a second. All right, that's it. Let's go into the next video. Hi there, welcome to the video all about type in XD. Actually, just getting the basics right. Now, if you are an Adobe nerd and you're like, man, what am I going to learn from this type video? Stick around. XD has some quirky text things. Plus, we throw in some tricks and tips for distributing and duplicating. It's worth your time. Hang about. Let's get started. All right, to get started, grab the capital T tool, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to use my shortcut, Command 1. Okay, Command 1's really good when you're dealing with type. So it's Control 1 on a PC. That gets you to 100%. Remember, it's just better to be dealing with that when you're dealing with text. Okay, be seeing it the actual size that your audience is going to see it when you're making decisions on how big it is and how small it is. So grab the capital T, and there's two type boxes. If you click once, you get what's called a point text box. Okay, and this is good for headings, and it goes on and on forever. Okay, that's just the way it is. And the other type box, if I go back to my black arrow, okay, to kind of deselect out of that, and then go back to my type tool, and if I click, hold, and drag, I get what's called an area text box. Okay, and the difference between this is when I mash it, see what happens? It's got a fixed width. So headings, body copy, navigation, body copy. You only use this for body copy. Things that have like multiple paragraphs and, I don't know, Lorem, Ipsum, that type of stuff. You can convert each of them. I could say black arrow. I could say I want to be an area type box now. That there's a little icon for point text. That's the one for area text. So you click on this. Nothing, it kind of changes a little bit over here, but watch what happens. If I double click to get inside, I can start typing and you can see it has a fixed width. The weird thing about it though is the actual height of that box is just that blue dotted line. Look what happens when I go back to my black arrow, because there's all this other text. What happens to it? Just kind of disappears. I'm gonna move it down so you can see it. But it just gets kind of lost underneath this. So that's what this little blue dot in the middle of this white circle is meant to indicate. If I drag it down, any of these icons, if I drag it down, you can see there he is there. So if you end up with a box like this and you make it too small, okay, that little blue dot appears and it's not as important. It's called overset text in something like InDesign. It's not super important when you're doing a mock-up. It might be though. So keep an eye out for that little blue dot so you can convert one to the other. Point text, area text. All right, a couple of things. We're going to go move in now and start kind of fixing up our navigation. Now, when you are working in wireframes, don't be picking fonts. Okay, I'm just going to leave it as Arial. You leave it as something really simple. It's not a time to be picking fonts. We'll do proper fonts a little bit later in the course when we start doing high fidelity. We'll look at a little bit more. The real basics though, before we move on, is I've got this box selected. You can see over here. I'm not going to go through everything. I am actually, because it's real quick. Left align, center, right align. Okay, you've got underline. This is the space between letters. So if I put it up to 20, it's going to open up let's put it up to something really high, 200. Okay, space between letters, that's the space between lines. Put it up to 50.
and this is the space after the paragraph. So if I go into here and I put a return in between these two and I open it up, so I put a return in there, there's no spacing, but if I go, actually I like spacing when there's a return, you can see not between the lines, but after there's a return. So that's where I put a little enter in. All right, a couple other things to show you about text, a little quickie in XD. I'm gonna delete that stuff. And what I want to do is, I don't want to use this. This is an XD logo. I'm just gonna delete it. I'm gonna put in the company name. Don't be tempted to put in the logo here. Like, it's really hard as a designer to not start putting in the logo, but then you start using the brand colors and then the fonts, and then wireframe is not a wireframe anymore. It's like a half-baked high-res version. So just stick to the actual text. So uppercase is kind of a nice way to remove any kind of design from it. Just keep it all very standard. The only thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to select all the text and make it white so it can be seen at least across this. The other thing is font size. Remember, I'm at 100%. Remember, Command 1 on a Mac, Control 1 on a PC. So I'm picking the right size, and it's quite big, right? So a real common body copy size, well, for wireframes is 16 pixels. So I just clicked it over here and hit 16 and hit return. So often I'll just have 16 everywhere. Maybe the headings will be a slightly bigger size to indicate kind of what are headings and what are not. The other thing to do is on the black arrow, can you see this little white dot here? Okay, when you're in point text, okay, which pretty much, most of the text that I'm doing here, except for big chunks of body copy, are going to be this point text. You see this little dot here, and it does a couple of things. It's kind of weird. If you click, hold, and drag it down, it's a great way of adjusting the size. Okay, so this one here doesn't have a drop down or a slider, so you have to keep typing it in there. So if you just like a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, just drag that. The other weird thing it does is, you can see there, if I'm right over the top of it, it's up and down. If I come out just a little bit, so not quite on the circle, but just outside anywhere here, click, hold, and drag it, it's rotating. Now you can see it over here, there's my rotation, and it's up to you, but I'd stay away from rotating text. It's quite hard to do in an app and coding a website, weirdly. It can be done, but yeah. Your developer might hate you if you start rotating text and he's got to go try and make a consistent rotated text. You'd have to have real good justification for that pain. But anyway, so we've got our text here. A couple of things. I want to, like this here, what is this? This is set to 10 point. I find it's a little bit small for what I need. So I'm going to click it, delete it. Goodbye, guys. I'm going to duplicate this across. You can copy and paste it. Okay. If you select something and go edit, copy, and then edit paste, it just ends up over the top of it. So you can see they're just there. So what I find is a little easier is with the black arrow. So click, before you start dragging, so I'm going to drag it over here, hold down the Option key on a Mac or Alt key on a PC. You can see just kind of while you're dragging makes a copy. I find that quite useful. So I want a couple of things. So this first one here on my wireframe is going to be the example. We're going to like have an example version of it. I'm going to hold down my Option and drag. I'm going to have a pricing. So you type this in as well. Now, the reason we are keeping these in separate boxes, because obviously I could just put in space, and then put in login, and that's fine. Two things. One is it's hard to kind of adjust that spacing, but that's not a real big problem. What ends up happening is in XD, which we'll see later on when we start doing mockups, if this is one big text box with all the different like words in it, you can only get it to be a navigation item for one thing. Because it's one text box, you can say this whole block of text goes to the example page, but you can't split it up. So with these all in their own little type boxes, it means later on when we get in the course, we can actually get this button to go to something different from this one. So you'll get in the habit of that. So I'm going to have a couple of these. I'm going to have login, and we're going to have start trial. Start trial. Okay, another thing while we're here is you can see I can see the edge of this thing. If you can't see it, sometimes click in the white background, or click on the edge of the artboard is a nice easy, double click on the edge of the artboard is a nice easy way to select the whole artboard. Otherwise it's clicking on the name. When you've got the whole artboard selected, you can adjust these columns here. Mine's quite light. I'm going to adjust mine mainly because I want you to be able to see it. Okay, you can see it there through the video. Sometimes the videos don't show the contrast very well. Anyway, that's a handy trick. Double click the edge and you get the artboard kind of overall settings. That's not the trick I wanted to give you. The one is I want this to kind of line up close to here. I want them to be all kind of distributed, so on the same spacings. There's a couple of ways you can do it. You can select them all. Okay, so I've got everything selected, including my nav. I'm going to hold Shift and click the navigation. Okay, so that deselects it. That's maybe a bit advanced here. So let's just go click, hold shift, hold shift, hold shift, hold shift. So I'm holding shift when I'm clicking them, makes a nice big selection. And up here, there's your aligns. Okay, I want this one here, the distribute horizontally. You can see there's some shortcuts up there. Okay, I'm gonna click on it, it just spreads them all out. What you will find though in XD is, let's say I don't do that. Let's say I line this one up, okay, and I'm like, yeah, that's about perfect. If I start dragging this, I'm not doing anything. Can you see those little helpful smart guides appearing? And you can see when I get to here, it kind of like the little pink thing appears and it says, oh, would you like them to be 41 pixels apart? And you're like, yeah, man, that is too good. Look at that. Okay, I end up doing that a lot more than kind of trying to remember the shortcut, or I have problems with horizontal and vertical. I always click the wrong one. Anyway, all right, so that's the basics for text. We are going to look at it a lot better later on when we get into kind of web-based fonts and do some fancier things. But for the moment, that's what we need to get going with our wireframe. Simple text, point text, area text. There was a couple of other little tricks in there. All right, let's jump into the next video. Hey there, this video is all about creating buttons. We're gonna make a nice simple button with rounded corners. And you can see here, we created some swatch colors we can use throughout the document. Plus we kind of add some of the just kind of core components to our homepage wireframe. All right, buddies, let's get started. All right, so colors aren't huge in wireframes, just some subtle colors to show kind of hierarchical changes and kind of separation of different areas. So that's what we're gonna do now. First of all, grab the black arrow and click on your navigation. It's this kind of blue box here. Okay, with it selected, it should have no border, okay, and have a fill. So the border is the color on the outside and the fill is the stuff in the middle. Now, click on the little blue box here, and this pulls up our little color palette. Now, we're not gonna go and change this blue thing just yet, okay? Basically what I wanna do, because I wanna reuse this through it, I wanna have this little plus button. It just means it's gonna be easy to find again when I'm drawing different text boxes. I can click on this and make sure it's all matching up the same color. While you are here, it's really handy to have, you can see this little dot here. This is showing me you can see I'm changing it in here. It's not really what I want, but I'm going to go back, I'm gonna drag it all the way down, drag, and just keep dragging it past here. So it's jammed in the corner and add that. So I want a full black, I'm gonna drag it all the way to the top and add a full white. And then I'm going to click on the little blue so that my navigation's back to that blue color. What we'll do is in XD, there's a default color as well. This, if I click on this, can you see that border color? Even though it's not on, you can click on it and say, add that. That's the kind of default gray color that goes through all of XD. And we might as well keep it consistent instead of trying to guess it. So I've got all these colors. There's just one of the color I want to add. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the background. So let's double click the edge or click the name over here to get the whole artboard selected. And what I'd like to do is, at the moment it's filled with white, I'm gonna fill it with a slightly off-white color. So you can see here, I don't want it to be this color, but I want it to be just down off here. It's gonna mean there's gonna be a nice contrast when we draw our little white boxes over the top of it. That makes no sense to you at the moment, okay, because we haven't drawn them, but let's just make it a slightly off-white. If you are typing it in, you can type in #F0, F0, F0. Okay, that's called the hexadecimal code. If you're new to web design, that is often the color that gets used to describe it. If you're kind of from a graphic design background and you're dealing with RGB or CMYK, that's what we use when we're kind of dealing with web and app. Not always, but it's the most common one. You can use RGB or hue, saturation, and brightness, but hey ho, cool. And while we are here, we might as well hit plus. So I've got that kind of like tinted background color. Cool, so we've got kind of some pre-made swatches so we can get consistency through this document. What I wanna do is I'm gonna click off in the background, I'm gonna grab my rectangle tool, and I'm gonna draw a rectangle that goes from the edge here, okay, all the way on the side, all the way over, and it should snap, which is cool. And this is gonna be my hero box. Now this hero box, okay, or the welcome box, or this top main focus. This is kind of like above the folds. Remember this dotted line here? Okay, so that's what people initially are going to see. So this is kind of where your main call to action would be, or your main marketing message, or your main sale promotion. So this is kind of gets referred to as a few things, but often it's the hero image. Cool, and what I want to do with it, I'm going to move it up a little bit, and a couple of things I didn't do is I put in a little bit of padding into the edges of this because I didn't want it banged up against the edge, but it's kind of not what we're doing here. We're using this extra space here. So I'm going to have all these guys, and I'm going to get him to the edge there, you to the edge there, so everyone's lined up nicely. All right, so once I'm here, I don't need this column at the moment, this kind of discolored column to show me the edges. I'm going to use this white box because this column, I guess, gets annoying for me in terms of colors. Now to turn it off, the long way is double click the edge, okay, or click the name. and go over here and just turn off that for the moment. There is a shortcut though, and I try not to do too many shortcuts, but I end up throwing them in. Just for the people that read it, you can just click on the edge and turn it off. That's no big problem. But if you're on a PC, it's Control Shift. And I want to say apostrophe. Is that an apostrophe? Okay, I'll show you it up here. That's on a PC. On a Mac, it's this one here. That is Command Shift and that one there. On my keyboard, it's kind of just across from the colon, which is next to the L key. Okay, you might have to mash around and see if you can find it. Okay, so there's a shortcut I use quite a bit. It won't work unless you've got the artboard selected or anything inside that artboard. So you can see I just kind of toggle it on and off quite a bit when I'm just working. But now I've got this hero box, it works. And that's why I've got that contrast with the background. I want this all kind of segmented up so that that's just kind of hidden in the background. These have a little bit more importance. The other thing to do is, I don't need it to move anymore. I'm gonna start working on top of it, but it ends up getting in the way, so you can lock it. So there's the long way up here, object, there it is, lock. You can see the shortcut, Command L, or you can right click it and say lock. Either way, I want it locked, and now I can't move it, you can see, which is really handy. If you want to unlock it, just click it once with the black arrow, and you can see this little locking icon, just click it, and it comes back to life. So I'm gonna use Command L or Control L to lock it. All right, next thing I wanna do is put some text in the middle, grab your type tool, and what I'm gonna do is click once, and before we start typing, we all need to make sure, probably by default, yours is stuck to white as a font color, so when you start typing, it's not gonna appear. So just set it to black, and yours is probably set to left hand, like left align. I'm gonna set mine to center, and mine's defaulted to Helvetica, so I'm gonna use the Arial. Now, if you are like, man, I can't deal with Arial or Helvetica as a designer, it's just too basic. Something like Source Sans or Open Sans is a real common one. You can download them from Google Fonts or Adobe Fonts, and they are at least a little bit more stylish, but are still really crystal clear and simple. So I'm going to start typing, and I'm going to call this one headline/hero box. So it depends who this is going to. If I was designing for engineers and other designers in the industry, we can call it hero box. But sometimes a client who doesn't know, like they'd be like, hero what? So I don't know, that's why I double word it. Headline hero box. And what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to work through and use this blue color throughout. So I'm going to limit my colors to those people there. Okay, so I've got a really limited color swatch. You could change the blue thing to something else that maybe, try not to go on brand colors, just maybe something a little different if you're sick of blue. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to put it in the middle. It's just really handy, like to get stuff in the middle, you just drag it until it kind of like finds its home. One thing you can do though, it's a little trick. If you have two things selected, this doesn't work. But if you have just one thing selected, it goes, hey, what am I going to align to? If you click on these buttons, and it assumes the artboard. See that? It only works when you have one thing selected. Anyway, that's my hero box. I would like to, is it the right size? It is, but it's Helvetica. It's going to be Arial to keep it consistent. And it looks exactly the same. All right, I need to put a button in here. You saw it at the beginning. So buttons, you can go and steal one or create one. A button can just be a rectangle. What we might do is do a little bit more practicing of the jumping between different artboards. So I'm gonna go back and open up. You probably still have yours open. Open recent, this Wires Web one. Okay, remember this fella? For you, it was just a second ago in the last video. For me, it was over the weekend. So it was like a whole few days ago. That's why it's not open still. All right, and there's a zillion buttons to find. There we are. Cool. And you can see here, slightly designed. There's some rounded corners. We'll look at that ourselves in a bit. But you can see the different kind of designs for buttons. Sometimes that can be quite hard. You're like, how does a button look? Often, like, I like to think of myself as a pretty good UX designer, but often I'll draw a box, I'll draw a button, and it will just look like a text inside of a box, and you're like, man, sometimes it's bad. I've worked on projects where people just like, well, where do I click? I'm like, the button. And they're like, well, where's the button? I'm like, that box with the text in it. And it just hasn't worked out. So sometimes things like rounded corners. All right, so that's given us an idea. Instead of copying and pasting it, the reason I don't like copying and pasting is because if I copy this, jump to my other document, and remember on my Mac, it's Command and tilde, which is the little wave key that switches between buttons. And on PC, it's Control Tab to switch between open documents. Anyway, so if I paste this in, if I'm on my assets panel and I paste it in, can you see it brought through a symbol? Which is cool. I can do that thing where I right click it and say, actually, I want it to unlink symbol, and then I'm going to delete this guy over here. Goodbye. So I've disconnected it all. You could do that way. I'm just going to show us how to make it. And plus we'll learn how to do a rounded rectangle box at the same time. So Command 1, so I'm at the right size, so I know I'm not making a giant button, and that's about the size I want it to be. I want it to fill with the blue. You can see how handy those little swatches are now. And with the border, I'm going to turn it off. What I'd like to do is introduce this little option here. Okay, so this first option, and if I type in here, like say 4 pixels, you can see it just gives it a little hint. I'll zoom in for you so you can see. So there's a little hint around the outside there of rounded corners. You can decide on what's right for you. You might go back to that mock-up and just see what they did and copy that, because we've all learned Dan makes terrible buttons. The only difference is, see this option here? This is, all of them do the same thing. This one is, I can do them all individually. So if I do 2, 2, 2, and which is this guy? If I turn them up to 20, you can see I can make fancy curve buttons, but we're getting back to the terrible button ideas. But anyway, that's how to do rounded corners. I'm gonna make sure it's in the center of the document. Remember our little trick A? That's gonna work because I know that's centered and it's lined it up nicely. But remember, if I have one thing selected and click on this, it just goes into the center. I'm gonna grab a text box. Instead of trying to recreate it, I'm just gonna copy and paste you. Okay, so I've got 2 of them. I'm gonna make him white, move him over. This one's going to be start trial. All right, I'm gonna select both of these. Actually, just gonna drag him and bam, he's in the middle. Command 1, Control 1, zoom out. Yeah, it's kind of working. Now, we're at a point where, in terms of type, we've only used 16 point, okay, real common body copy size, but we're gonna have to show kind of hierarchies of what's more important, because this thing here is quite small. Well, it feels small in comparison to this. I know that's kind of more important to describing this box than this is. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna introduce probably just 2 font sizes. I'm probably gonna pick something like 24. Okay, so that's clearly different. That's more important than this. And I'm going to try to stick to that. I'm probably going to have to pick one smaller font size. Okay, so probably down to something like 10 point for like T's and C's and kind of really small, insignificant notes. But stick to 2 or 3 font sizes throughout the wireframe. Even in the kind of high res version we'll do later on, or the high fidelity version, we'll end up with maybe just 5 font sizes just to keep it all really consistent. All right, so now you can kind of skip ahead now, because all I'm going to do is duplicate this to get our all the different kind of sections going. So I'm going to make him in the middle. Here we go. I want this to be unlocked. You can right click it or go Command L on a Mac, Control L on a PC. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to grab it all. Okay, just drag a box, black arrow, drag a box through it all, and I'm going to hold down you can copy, paste, and then drive it down. Not sure where you're driving it, but I hold down the Option key on a Mac, Alt key on a PC, and I can drag it down. Okay, so there's that one. How many do I need? I'm looking at my hand-drawn wireframe here. I showed you the wireframe pretty terribly in the video, and I was like, hey, look, I had a back look through that video, and it doesn't focus at all. So if you are looking at what wireframe is he doing? In the exercise files under images, there is in the bottom here, there's the wireframe one. So that's kind of what I'm working from. I took a scan of it rather than sticking it to the camera. So I'm kind of just building this thing up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes. So it's going to do here. I'm going to go 1, 2, and you'll notice that XD is pretty good at trying to like guess like the spacings. So I'm going to have 5 of these, and I'm just going to change the text. So it's not very exciting from here on. I promise not to throw in any extra tips or tricks, so you can skip on, or you can hang out. If you can't reach the button to turn it off, you're stuck with me. All right, so this one doesn't have a button. This is the welcome video that we're going to be using, and it is on autoplay, and muted. So it kind of starts playing, but it's kind of off, so people can kind of see what's going on. They can unmute it if they need to. All right, this one here is the instructor ecosystem that they're building, instructor ecosystem. Infographic. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the editor to speed this up because, I promised no more tips. Okay, 1 tip. You'll notice throughout this course, and if you've done any of my other ones, my spelling is terrible. So there is this new handy thing. I know it doesn't seem like much, but for me, it's awesome. So you turn on spelling and grammar, and it's going to do cool things like, wow, make me look a little less bad when it comes to typing. I'll show you what it does. Can you see? You get the lovely dynamic spelling and gives you suggestions, which is not helping me at the moment. Let's hope I can spell infographic. So now I'm going to speed it up. No more tips, and I will see you in a sec.
All right, so that wasn't really worth hanging about for, but yeah, we've got our boxes and then we can start moving forward. On to the next video. Hey there, welcome to the video. This one is all about icons. Okay, we need them to kind of indicate what these things do. It's an image, play buttons. We could draw them, but if you're lazy like me, we're gonna go off and appropriate them, not steal them, because they're free. I'm gonna show you a couple of cool places. There'll be Adobe Market, Google Material, plus Icon Finder, and I'll show you how to kind of use them, recolor them, plus some little resizing tricks. So hang around, we're gonna make some icons. And by make, I mean steal from other people. Okay, so we need those icons. Where do we get them from? You can steal them from other UI kits, okay? Like the wires one we've got here. The problem I find with using these, they're totally fine. The problem is you just got to dig them out because there's no like search for icons in this thing. You just got to kind of like look around and like, let's say we want that image icon, okay, or the play or pause. I know it's not in here because I've had a hunt around already, but you end up doing this. Great for ticks and kind of more of this interface UI, but this particular wireframe doesn't have the bits we need. And how am I moving around? Just to remind you, hold the spacebar key down, click and hold and drag your mouse. So if you can't find them in here, you can find a lot in different UI kits you can download. Some of the ones I have in your exercise files. Where else do you get them from? Or where do I get them from? Like where's the easy place? There's two main places that I use. The first one we're gonna look at is called the Adobe Market. So I'm gonna zoom out. Actually, no, I'm gonna switch back to our document. And Adobe Market is tied into this like little Creative Cloud icon. So hopefully you've got the Creative Cloud app installed. If you don't, go to adobe.com and look for the Creative Cloud app. Should be installed. On a PC, it's down in the bottom right, and on the Mac, it's up here. And that's what it looks like. You might have seen it before. You got to log into it. So if your organization has blocked this, some of them do, this is not going to work, but most people do, so we'll go through it. What you're looking for is this one called Assets and this one called Market, okay? And this little search icon. The cool thing about this is that they're commercial use, okay? And it has a few different things in here. We're going to look at it throughout the course. What it's really good for is icons. It just has loads of ones you can use. Instead of searching the net for like bad old clip art kind of icons or emojis or wingdings, webdings. If you're young, you might not know what those are. But anyway, I'm going to click this little search icon and I want to find an image, please. And I could type an icon, but because this thing is so heavily weighted towards icons, I don't need to add that, okay? You can see there, that's kind of like a real good generic icon for, for an image. You can decide on the ones you want. Remember, this is a wireframe. So what you need to do before you download it is click on just the big icon image version of it. You're looking for this one that says SVG, okay? It's a scalable vector graphic. It's the kind of a nice reusable vector file, better than JPEGs, better than PNGs, because we can reshape it and recolor it in XD. If it says PSD, so a Photoshop document, that can be okay. You need some Photoshop skills to be able to yank. It's not as super easy as SVG. Later on in the course, we will go through Photoshop and how to do all that sort of stuff in a bit more advanced, but that's kind of further through the course and it's not ready for now. So find an image icon, hopefully it's SVG, and click on download. It's going to ask you to put it into one of your CC libraries. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new library for this course. Okay, and we're going to call this one, I've already got an instructor HQ, so we're going to call this IHQ XD class. And that's where we're going to put everything for this course. If you've never used a CC library before, okay, I'm going to click return. Did I click return? I didn't. I'm going to do it again. We'll speed this up. All right, missed about a little bit there. There it is there. So I clicked on it, and what's happening is in the background, it's downloading it. Okay, and you're like, oh yeah, I just clicked off down here, disappeared. It's gone into this one here, File, and click on this one that says Open CC Libraries. Okay, and hopefully I see in my Instructor HQ XD class, you'll see that there's my little graphic in here. Cool, huh? And to use it, it's pretty easy. Just click, hold, and drag it out. Don't drag it into anything, okay, just drag it kind of on the edge here. We've learned a couple of things there. Adobe Market, okay, where to get things from. So we can go into here. This is a little confusing. To go back to find another one, you've got to click that arrow. And then in here you could type in, say I want the play button, okay? The problem with that is that it doesn't quite, I've already had a look in here and it doesn't give me the buttons I want. Plus I want to show you a few other things, but you can see loads of play buttons. If you want to get rid of that, you can hit the little cross. And when you do find something you like, say it is this, You can click on it, check what kind of file it is, and then hit download and pick your library. When you're finished with it, just click outside of it, and then you just need to open up your file and open up CC Libraries. Now, if it's a big icon, which is unlikely to be, but say it's a big image, it can take a while to download. We drag that out onto our desktop, and at the moment it's connected, which can be cool. Okay, it means it's connected to this. So if I adjust the library item, which we'll look at a little bit later on, this will update. For the moment though, what I want to do is close that down, and I want to break this link. Just click on it, and it's now broken from the library. So it's kind of, if I update that library item now, this is not going to change. The reason I do that is because I want to break this apart. Well, not really break it apart. I just want to change the color of it because it's black at the moment. I want it to be the blue. So what I can do is I can double click on it. Just keep clicking on it until you see this over here, and you can change the fill color. Okay. And then to get back out, just double click on the background. Kind of like double click it to dive inside, change the color, double click to get out. Let's get it to be about the right size. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick here. I'm going to show you a little thing that happens in XD. If I drag this down, can you see something weird happening? You see the little dot? And what ends up happening by default is this thing over here called responsive resize is turned on. If I turn that off and do the same thing, can you see it doesn't mess around with that dot? So there's going to be times in this class where that's really awesome and when it's really not. It's in the really not function at the moment. So I've turned it off, scaled it down, okay, and I'm going to use it on this one here. Okay, so that's what that guy's going to go. I'm going to duplicate it. It's going to go on this one. There's going to be an image as well. And the FAQ is not going to have an image. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just move these guys up. Holding shift to select more than one. And there we go there. This one though, I want to have some different icons. And let's say I can't find it in here. Okay, I can't find it in this one. So I'm going to show you another place where I get my icons from. All right, and here we are. It's a website. It's called material.io. It's run by Google, and it's I guess a place where, especially if you're new to web design or app design, it's just a really awesome place to get, like there's lots of not only like icons, which we're going to find, but if we click on things like design, there's just a lot of articles, research projects. If you read this site back to back, you'll end up with a lot of the language used in kind of UI design, and it just gives you good examples, and you get to meet really famous UI designers. There are famous ones. Okay, so it's just a really good central resource for UI design. What I want to do is go to tools, and I want to find the icons. I just want to steal some cool icons from them. Okay, so tools, then click on icons. There's lots of other things in here, but I just want this. So in here, there's some cool stuff. So down the bottom here, just a real good large chunk of lots of icons. And the best bit is that's searchable. So over here, I can filter by name. I want to find the play button. Okay, and down here is a bunch of play buttons. You can decide whether you want filled ones, outlined ones, rounded ones, two-tone ones. Okay, so there's just a nice consistency across. Like icons are quite easy to find, I guess, online, but it's hard to find ones that are consistent across such a large, broad amount of different icons. They all look like they're from the same place. So I'm going to pick, I have no idea what the difference between these two are. I'm going to click on it. Down the bottom here, it says, of the selected icon, I'm going to click on this. Actually, no. Yeah, do you want the dark version or the light version? Doesn't really matter in my case. PNG or SVG? That's my question to you now. It's a test, which is the better one, and SVG is, okay, because I can edit it. PNG, I can't. It's going to be a graphic. It's going to be an image. Don't click on it. Whoops. Okay, I don't want that one. I want the SVG. This website in general is a little hard to use, which I find is a little, it's just not, it's non-traditional. They're pushing the boundaries of what you can do with website design. So if you get a little lost in here, don't worry. I do too. So when you download it, you stick it on my desktop and you can start using it. I've already downloaded it for you, so you don't have to go through all this process. Okay, so once it's downloaded, I'll show you what to do in a sec. So I've gone through and I'm gonna click on that, and I found a mute button and a pause button and a like a restart button, and I've got them ready. There it is, replay. Okay, so I downloaded those for you just to save some time. So let's jump back into XD. All right, so I want to bring in those icons. There's an official way and an unofficial way. So the proper way is File. I'm going to go to Import, and I'm going to find them in my exercise files. I'm going to go to Icons. I'm going to bring in the play button that I made for you. I just named them differently to make it easier as well. They had some crazy names down from the material site. Import, and there it is there. I'm going to zoom in on it. Now remember the shortcut we had? There's Command 1 gets us to 100%. What's the one that gets us all the way zoomed in, like super big?
Command 3 or Control 3 on a PC. Just whatever you have selected. Okay, so I had it selected first, just zooms in. So it's just a handy shortcut. See here, fill. I'm going to double click on it so I get the gray, the black background, because I don't want to change this white arrow here. I'm going to click on it and go to my little consistent blue. Command 1 to zoom out, and that's my little icon. And that's my first one here. Whoop, first one there. I'm going to zoom out. Command 0, Control 0. I'm going to stop saying shortcuts soon because you're going to punch me, but for the little bit of the first class, I'm going to repeat myself. What I want to do is select all of these. You can see I want this one, this one. I can just drag a box around them all, and Command L, Control L on a PC to lock them all so that I didn't run into that problem. Command 1, this guy needs to be a bit bigger, and he's going to go there. So that's the official way of doing it. I'll show you the kind of down and dirty Dan way. Okay, is what I'll do is I'll find my exercise files, grab my icons, and I want the play. I've already got that one. I want mute and replay. We use both of these. I'm just going to click, hold, and drag them, and that's an easier way to do it. Okay, wow. Is it easier? I don't know. It's the way I do it anyway. Just drag them in. Mac or PC, you can just kind of like have the window open on your kind of Finder or in your Windows and just drag things in. Images, icons, I find that's the easiest way to work. Now I'm going to kind of get these positioned the right size. Now you'll notice that resizing this one, it's kind of doing some weird stuff. So if you know, some people know, some people don't. If I hold the Shift key down while I'm resizing, so if I hold Shift down, you can see I can't distort it. Okay, so with it off, I can squish it. Okay, I'm going to undo. Remember, edit, undo. So holding Shift is going to get me the right size-ish. Same with this. I'm going to get it down to the right size-ish. I'm going to double click it. You are blue. And double click you. You are blue. That's why SVGs are awesome. They're scalable, they're vector, and the graphics. All right, so I might get him looking nice there. You get bumped over. Now, sometimes the smart guides where it's trying to line things up and you're like, stop lining up, I just want to move it a little bit. You see that's quite hard. What you can do is just select it once with a black arrow, and with your keyboard, just kind of tap it across. I'm just using the arrow keys, okay? Just the little plain old arrow keys. All right, the last place I go to for icons, if I can't find it up in here in the assets market, and I can't find it on material, or it's just not the right one, right? I don't agree with the mute button. Okay, so you don't like it. You can go to something. This is the only other place I go to. I go to iconfinder.com, and I go into here and I type in mute, and there are paid ones and free ones. I'm cheap. I shouldn't be, but anyway, I go in here and I say I want it to be free. I want it to be vector, and these are the ones that are free in vector. Okay, so you might decide that like I prefer this style. The cool thing about it is you can get SVGs. Make sure there is an SVG version of it. And what can be cool, if I can click on this one, often they're part of larger groups of free icons as well, because that's the one I'm going to download, but you can see it's part of a bigger group. It's not a huge group. Oh no, there's a huge group in this one. Okay, so what I want to do is download the SVG. Okay, so that's the other place I go to. You might have your own place. This is not like the place to go, but yeah, try market, try material, and then after that, you can do some just Google searching or try iconfinder.com. All right, I have the icons I need. We are going to move on to the next video. I'll see you there. Hi everyone, this video we're going to do this. We're going to put in our footer and we're going to put in some Lorem and Ipsum for our frequently asked questions, look at some kind of basic font stuff with bullet points, which actually don't exist, but we'll cover them all in this video right now. All right, let's grab that footer first. I'm going to steal it from this wires document. There's a chunk of options up the top here. I'm going to grab this first one, copy it, switch, paste. Now, I keep doing this because you're going to work with lots of like other UI kits to get started. A lot of people do, okay, just to kind of get elements that you might not have designed before. And you're going to end up with all these kind of like random symbols. So I'm going to click on the little link to break it. Okay, actually that doesn't work. It worked with that CC library, but in this case we need to right click it and say where's the unlink symbol. So it's no longer a symbol, and all of these guys I'm going to delete. So I've selected them all. I click the first one, shift click the last one, right click, and goodbye, just to tidy it all up. Okay, another thing I want to do is I want to ungroup it. Okay, so I've right clicked it, ungroup, so that I can kind of work with this bit and just drag this to the edges. Okay, neat little trick. Our trick is if you hold down the, I'm going to zoom in, too far away, Dan. Is if you set, I want to drag this one and this one across. Okay, but if you hold down the Alt key on a PC or the Option key on a Mac and you grab this side here, watch what happens. Can you see? Ooh, both move. So it's kind of handy. So that's my footer. What I want to do actually is I want to select this whole thing and drag it up a little bit because I want it to be there. And I want to adjust the artboard, okay, because there's too big a gap there. So to adjust the artboard size, double click the edge, drag it up, and you'll notice that it doesn't snap. Like the artboard doesn't snap to anything, okay, it just kind of moves around. This big lumbering giant does whatever it wants. What you can do is get it close and then grab all of this stuff again. I'm going to drag a box around it all using my black arrow and just kind of move it down, and it'll you know, your footer will snap to the edge of the artboard, but not the other way around, just so you know. Now we should go through and do all the text adjustments, okay? I'm not going to do it for the moment just because you don't want to watch me typing, but obviously this is not quite consistent with the rest of the wireframe. Now before we move on, we're going to quickly look at Lorem Ipsum. Why? Because there are going to be parts like this Q&A section here. I would like to have some fake text in it. And you use what's called Lorem Ipsum, just fake mixed up Latin words as placeholder text. So we're going to go through it now and show you a kind of a quick dirty way to do it now, and later on we'll turn it into, we'll start using fancy plugins and some more advanced stuff. But for the moment, what we're going to do is I want to go grab some text that I've got in your exercise files. So here it is, it's in text and fonts, and there's one in here called placeholder text. And I just have this sitting on my hard drive in my documents because I just go out and grab it all the time. I'm like, I just need a line for this Q&A kind of placeholder text. And you can see Latin words, they're actual words just mixed up. Okay, so I'm going to copy it and I'm going to grab my text box. I'm going to use our area text box. Okay, and click and drag it, paste it in, make it the right color. Use black, make sure it's 16. And I want to put bullet points in the front of it. Now, you'll notice that XD doesn't have a whole lot of text ability, okay? So if you want to put it in a bullet point, you have to work out, I know on my Mac, if I hold down the Option key and hit 8, I think it's Alt 8 on a PC, you can get a bullet point. But just so you know, like if you're like, hey, where's the, you know, the strike through button? It has underline, which is cool, which is an upgrade, believe it or not, from the earlier version. But it doesn't have some of the font stuff, so you got to fake it. So there's my like question, and I'm going to have my answer, and I'm just going to grab a bit more text. I just want a chunk of that, and it's just good because like if you start adding real text in here, I bet you people start coming, like clients come back to me and say, oh, that's not quite correct, that question and answer, or that's not up to date. And you're like, that's not the point of this meeting, to kind of correct my grammar and type, which is terrible. And what I will do though is my space after is going to be 0. And I'm going to go and just copy and paste a few lines of this thing. So I'm going to put a return in. Pretty faking it at the moment. I'm not going to spend too much on my kind of paragraph spacing. It's just placeholder text to give the idea of what's going in there. We used kind of an icon for an image, but this one's going to be placeholder text. Cool, and that's Lorem Ipsum. Just so you know as well, you can go off and get fancy. Like, that's where I get my Lorem Ipsum, lipsum.com. Loads of people use this one, ugly site, but it allows you to go, I want 5 paragraphs, generate, and it just gives you the text that you need. You can, that's exactly what I copied and pasted into that Word doc a long time ago. And they value my privacy, which is good. And the other thing you might do is, you don't have to, but just so you know, there's Lorem Ipsum, there's Cat Ipsum, okay? You can generate 3 paragraphs of Cat Ipsum. It's junk, like it's placeholder, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's kind of funny. There's Star Wars Ipsum, there's Gangster Ipsum, it's kind of like Snoop Dogg, Lauren Ipsizzle. Anyway, just so you know, that might not be appropriate. I just thought it was funny. Okay, so we stole the footer and we added some Lorem Ipsum. I will show you later on some cool plugins when we get into that, but more advanced XD stuff. But that's going to work for us as a placeholder now in our wireframe. All right, friends, let's move to the next video. Hi everyone, this video is all about making new artboards and saving some time so we duplicate things. We're creating kind of a new page in our website, plus I'll show you how to make an app or a mobile website size as well. It's really easy, a couple of little tricks in there, so let's get going. All right, to create a new page, there's 2 ways. The artboard tool, you can click on it. It's the second icon at the bottom there, and you can pick, let's say you want, I'm now working on my app, so I want to click on the iPhone X. Okay, and with this tool selected, you can keep kind of adding them. Okay, you can add more if you like. I'm going to undo that because that's not what I want to do. I want just another version of this home page.
I could start with this, okay, and that works perfect. I want to start with a 920, and I want to start copying and pasting things across. Now, duplicating is going to be easier, but I do want to show you this little trick. It's something that XD does by default, but it's really handy. So you can click on this navigation, copy it. If you click on the name of it, okay, or make sure the whole artboard's selected, if you paste, it puts it exactly where it got it from. Okay, so it's kind of really handy just to, so you know, it's when you copy and paste things, it doesn't just end up in the middle, it puts it back on the page where you need it. You'll notice that I needed to really select that whole thing, copy it, paste it. So that can be a really handy way to just move things across. But there are things like the background color you'll notice didn't come across. So I'm gonna undo a few times and I'm gonna duplicate it. A couple of ways of duplicating the page, and there's the official way. So if I go to my layers panel, so down here, okay, or artboards panel, so it's the second little icon, or the last little icon down the bottom. This home page is what I've got. I can right click it and say duplicate, just sticks it next to it. That's a totally easy way to do it. But because we're all hardcore XD users already, we can use the black arrow. And remember we duplicated boxes by just kind of like holding Alt on a PC or Option on a Mac while we're dragging. Do the same thing with artboards. So hold down the Option key on a Mac, Alt key on a PC, you can just get duplicates. I do this all the time. That's the easy way. Let's rename it. Okay, I'm gonna now call this one the sign up. That's the start trial. Start trial. There we go. The start trial page. What I want to do is I want to just delete everything. Now you can see I can't delete. If I delete now, I'm not going to get rid of these boxes. So with them all selected though, I can go to my Command L or Control L, delete them, or you can just right click them and unlock them. You can see there, how much time did it save? A little bit. At least the background color's in there. My footer and header's there. And I'm going to put some stuff in for the trial, starting the trial. So we're going to jump to our wires page. There it is there. I'm going to show you another little trick, pricing, where I want forms. So what I can do, black arrow, select all of these. So I've got the whole thing selected. And if I hit Command 3 or Control 3, kind of just highlights, because I had that whole thing selected, it's kind of made it full screen. So which one do I want? I want this one here. So I'm going to click on that, copy it, jump across, paste it. It's going to go in here. That'll do. And I'm going to grab this text, copy and paste it, bring it across, and this is my start trial. Start trial. And that's all I want from this page. And I lie, because I want one of these. Now the default, because I'm using the default, I could copy and paste that across, but because XD has a default of white with that gray around the outside, I can just draw the box and reuse this. It's going to bring in a little trick we need to learn. We need to send this to the back because it's obviously above the text there. Now the easy way is to right click it and go to this one that says send to back. You can see the shortcuts there. That's what I use, but let's just right click it, send it to the back, and now we've got a little bit more consistency across both pages, and it makes it clearer what this page does. I'm gonna lock it, Command L, Control L on a PC, and that's all I want to do for this video. Making new artboards. Simple, easy, use the tricks when you're duplicating, so the navigation and the footer doesn't have to be copied and pasted across. All right, friends, I will see you in the next video. Hi everyone, it is the class project time. It is time for me to give you a brief, give you your own persona or person to follow, give you some assets, give you some things to do so that you can practice, because following me in the class from step by step is good, but doing it on your own is where the real kind of learning comes from. So there's a couple of things you need to look at. So in your exercise file, there's a folder called class. Oh, first of all, open up this file. Okay, it's just in your exercise files. It's called Class Project Notes, XD Design. It's a Word doc. And it's going to give you, like, this is the one we're going to do now, class project 1. A little bit further on in the class, I'm going to give you project 2, project 3. They look daunting, they're not. And I promise you, the people that bothered to take the time to do these will be the people who get good at it, start remembering some of the shortcuts, which is not important, but get their flow going and start really cementing what we learn in this class. Plus, it's a good way to build something for your portfolio. You don't have to do it. I'm not going to check, but I'd love to see what you do if you decide to. So this is the first one, class project number 1. It says review these 2 documents. Okay, there's one called, it's in this folder. Okay, we're doing class project 1. Class project 2 will be the final. Right at the end of this course, I'm going to set you another course to go and do. It has a bit more creative freedom. whereas it's quite prescriptive what we're doing here when I'm setting these class exercises. Okay, so I want you to read these two. Okay, the brief and the persona. We'll have a look at them in a sec. Then I want you to build a wireframe using, these are the kind of features that need to go on the homepage wireframe. So like here in our XD course, we've built out the hero box and the welcome, and it has this thing, and it has these things in the nav. That's what we've decided for the Instructor HQ. These are the things that need to go on your wireframe. So that's the homepage. And what we did in this example is we created a start trial page. You're going to create a contact us page instead. So it's a slightly different client, well, completely different. They are a furniture manufacturer. Okay, they want an e-commerce site, which we'll look at in a second. So on that contact us page, you need to create a second artboard, tells you what you need to do, and you need to get one of the examples from the wires, or you can create your own. If you get stuck at what should be in a contact us form, you can check out other sites. Just look at other furniture sites for examples. And when you're finished, you're going to create a JPEG of your finished work and upload it to us so that we can, A, you can prove that you did it, and B, so you can get some feedback from me and other people doing the course. There's quite a large amount of people who kind of get involved in this, and it's nice just to post your work and get some feedback, get a like. I got a huge volume of stuff that goes up, so I can't reply to everything. I jump in all the time and try and add some comments and things, but I guess it's just a way of being held accountable for yourself. If you know you're not going to do it unless you're being checked or stick it somewhere, this is a great little thing to work through. So the way to share it though, I'll go through that now before we go through the brief, is that this is it, file export. We're going to go through exporting properly later on, but for the moment, this is the bare minimum. In XD, once you've got it to this phase, okay, you've gone through the brief, you've designed it, and you've got everything here like this in a wireframe, you go to File, you go to Exports, and you go to All Artboards. Okay, and this will allow you to go, I would like to have a JPEG, okay, quality, leave it all at 100%, stick it somewhere. I'm going to put mine on my desktop in my Instructor HQ mockup. I'm going to click export, and those are the JPEGs you can share. Where are they? Desktop. There it is there. So I've got my home page and my start trial page. You can see how important it is to name your artboards now. Can you see homepage has taken it from here and start trial over here. If you just ignore it and just, you know, it's called web 1920-1-2-3. You're gonna have to rename them when they come out to here. So naming artboards is helpful in XD. When you have done it, I want you to share it. Where do you share it? I'll show you in here. So there's a couple of places. This website has an assignment section, okay, where you can kind of post things and yeah, put them in there. That's the best place. Depending on the page that this appears on, you might have comments down the bottom, which you can put it in. So you can paste your JPEGs in there. The other place is social media. I'd love you to do this. Okay, do them all. Post in the assignments and on social media, and make sure you just tag me so I can take a look. Give you a like, give you a review, and just be held accountable. So if you're an Instagram person, I am at Bring Your Own Laptop. On Twitter, I am at Dan Loves Adobe, and there's a Facebook group here. Click on it. It'll take you to the group. Here it is. It's called Bring Your Own Laptop Online. It's just a group. If you search for it on Facebook, you'll find it. It is a closed group for students only. So you'll have to be, you can see one person's waiting to join this group. There's about, how many people? It's about 445 at the moment. And you'll see just like loads of cool content from the different courses. Post it up, get reviews. There's no XD in here at the moment because I'm making the course right in front of you. But there'll be piles on there, I bet you, by the time you get there. Post, ask questions. The only thing I ask is that if you post one, you have to respond to one. It could just be a thumbs up, well done, love it. It could be a critique if they've asked for it. Because I can't get in here every day, it'd be great if you put one up and post something for you to respond to somebody as well. Constructive criticism. I really need a new image here. Anyway, back to the Word doc. So build a homepage, build a contact us page, share it with me. So it looks long, but it's actually not that difficult. Let's have a look at both the brief and the persona so you get an idea of what they look like. So they are in your exercise files in your class project 1. So Maynooth Furniture is what we're going to do. This one we'll do at the end. It's like an end exercise. So Maynooth Furniture, I've got a brief and a persona PDF. Open those up. And I've left the working files in there as well. If you are like, ooh, I want to steal these and use them for my own briefs and personas, there's the working files, the Illustrator, you can use those. But we'll just open the PDFs for the moment. And where are they? There they are. So this is the brief, a bit fancier than the last one that we're doing for Instructor HQ. I thought I'd fancy it up for you. So basically the only thing you have is you have a logo. So the brand already exists. I've given you the logo. It is in here. Okay, don't worry about it for the moment. Don't be tempted to put it on the site because wireframes, remember, super simple. Don't use it, but I've for the upcoming rest of it, there's going to be logos in there for you to work with. Here's the client. It's a new business selling affordable high-end design furniture made in Ireland. That's where I currently live. I'm from New Zealand, but living in the sunny island. So that's the client. The primary objective of this brief and what they want is they want to build an e-commerce site where people can browse and purchase furniture for home delivery. The persona we'll go through in a sec. Okay, so our target audience, actually let's jump to that now. Where is persona? Okay, so Catherine is our persona. She's 50, she's an executive, she lives in Dublin. Have a little read through this, but basically she's well paid. She's kind of at a point where in her life where she's kind of doubling down and investing in kind of her home and stuff now that the kids are off at university. She's in it for the style, but she's not kind of in it for, you know, prices are definitely a big part of it. She's updating her house. She's lived in the house forever. It's a 4-bedroom house, but now she's got a bit more room and the kids aren't there messing it up. She's now kind of like, she's always wanted to, but it was always just a pain. I identify with Catherine. I've got 2 tiny kids. There's no chance of them leaving anytime soon, but you do not want to update your house. Because you're like, he's just gonna... The moment my baby's crawling on everything, so he's pulling himself on every chair. So basically, we've got no chairs in the house because they're all locked in a room. Anyway, she loves to browse style guides online, and this is, I think, a big part of what would be for me when I was designing this. Maybe not too much for the wireframe, but you know, she likes that whole Pinterest, like, and gathering ideas, kind of scrapbooking type things before she makes a purchase. So that might be something to include in the design for the website. So I hope you can see how a persona can really help you, like, because I am not Catherine. I am not 50-year-old woman executive living in Dublin. I got that bit, but everything else is not me. So me as a designer though, I can really identify, I can kind of see her in my mind's eye. I'm like, I kind of feel like what Catherine's about. So when I'm designing, I can be designing for Catherine, not for myself. Because if it's for myself, it'd look very different. And at the moment it would be, is it baby proof? And how good does spaghetti wipe off it? So the nice thing about this is that when the client comes back and says, oh, I think we should have this, or they contradict some of your designs, that's fine. But you can say, actually, I don't think Catherine would go down that route. I think, because sometimes the client forgets as well. And they're like, oh, I want this. You're like, oh, do we really need this? Catherine, I don't think would like it. Easier to say that Catherine wouldn't like it than for you to say, actually, your ideas are dumb. That does not go down well at a client meeting. But you can argue for Catherine. As a UX designer, it's your duty. So back to the brief. So we're designing for her. We've gone through and worked out what features need to go on the home page and the what things need to go on here. This is a little prescriptive for a brief because I want you to not be kind of like, I don't know, flying around in the dark. I want to give you some things for it to go on the home page. So there's a shopping cart, contact us. So this here would go in the nav. We need a contact us button. We need a shopping basket kind of icon in the corner. There's a search box on there somewhere. Hero slider, which is that hero box, but maybe one of those little slidey things. There's a section that says new in store, and there's a section in here. These will be the sections like these. Okay, so chunk. So new in store, inspiration ideas would be another one, clearance. Okay, so have all those, and then there'd be a footer. These could actually be in the nav, and they should be like tabbed in with these guys. And even though it says logo here, we're at the wireframe stage. This will go in eventually, but not at the moment. Just type it in. So you're going to build 2 pages. These other pages we'll do later on. Okay, don't worry about them for the moment. I don't want to make this this first exercise too long, even though it's a really long video of me explaining what you need to do. But you'll end up with 3 pages: the home page, a category page, which is often like, so we've got home, like, because it's a furniture shop, there'll be like different categories of furniture and then specific things in there. So let's say things that live in the living room, and there'll be a big list of those, including 3-seat sofas and, I don't know, armchairs and whatever goes into a living room. So this will be a category page. So it'll list the most popular. You can reorder by size, different inspiration, and then you'll actually click on one of them. You're like, oh, this looks cool. And you'll end up in this product page where these things will be available to the user. Competitors and product inspiration. So both me and the client have, as the writer of this brief, have decided that this is the kinds of sites that we like. Have a look at habitatandmade.com for the kind of look and feel. That's kind of the style they're looking for. Here are the deliverables. We'll give them wireframes. We'll give them a high fidelity. Once that's tested, we'll do user testing. We'll get all the stuff over to the developer for them to build. Here's our cost. We talked about payments earlier on, and there's our timeline. So that, my friends, is what you need to do. So that's the kind of, this brief is the thing you're going to be doing for the whole course. The particular chunk I want you to do at the moment is just homepage, contact us page, send me a JPEG. All right, let's get on to the next video. Hi there, in this video we are going to connect our pages up. You can see the little wires there. We're going to preview it and we're going to make our wireframe interactive. Watch this, ready to click the button, jumps to a different page. Go back to the home page. It's simple, but quite the milestone in our course. Let's go work out how to do prototyping now in XD. All right, time to add interactivity. We're gonna get this button to go first. So we're gonna click on the blue button, not the text in the middle. So I've got it selected and we're gonna switch from design to prototype. Okay, so you'll toggle between these quite a bit when you're building a wireframe and a mockup. So design does all the design stuff. You can see over here, changes, I can do fill and fonts and stuff. Prototype gets quite simple. What ends up happening, and the big difference is, see this like little box? I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so you can see it. Okay, this little tab appears. So no tab, tab. This guy is really handy. Click, hold, and drag. So when they click this blue button, it's gonna go to this start trial. And you just drag it to the side. You can see it can go anywhere in here. As long as it goes blue, see, not blue, blue. Just drag it here, let it go, and you'll see it connects to whatever the middle of the artboard is. You can see it's dived down here. That now is connected. Let's just see what it does by default. So to preview that, you click this little play button up here. Click on it. It launches this like little preview window, and you can see it's separate from XD. It's this kind of separate little window. And if I click on it, ready? Ah, cool, huh? Basic navigation. We're kind of trapped here now. We can't get back. So we're going to close it down, hit the little red box. To go back, in our case, we're going to click on the logo. It's really common on a website and an app. If you click on the logo, you go back to home base. So with it selected, I can click, hold, and drag it, and it goes back here. So we ignored this before, okay, this little pop-up little window. We're gonna leave it all at the moment by default and have a look at a bit more in a second, because I wanna show you how to preview. So hit this little play button, remember, play, we click on it, home button goes back, play, that's fun. Okay, but this window, you can close it, reopen it, close it, reopen it. If you are like me and you are working with more than one screen, not everyone is, and you don't have to, but I'll just quickly show you here on my phone what I do. This is my setup. So I've got a MacBook Pro. It's nice, it's portable, but the screen's a little small. So I fixed that by plugging it into this big LG monitor. LG do some really cool 4K monitors. Cheap enough. Like I think it was like 400 US, so it's not cheap, but pretty cool. Anyway, so what you end up doing is remember we hit preview before, okay, and it appears here, okay, and we kind of have to close it down to get back to XD. So what I end up doing is clicking, holding, and dragging it over here, so it just appears on this window. Cool, huh? And I never close it down, it just stays open. And the cool thing about that is if I zoom in, hang on, I need to put my hands down for shortcuts. Sorry. All right, I need a cameraman following me around. I don't have that. So I've zoomed in really close here. Okay, I'm gonna go even closer. Real close. So this, you see the screen there? But you see over there, it's still at its normal size. So you can be designing in here and doing things and actually just checking it over there to see whether it's the right size rather than going back to 100%. The other thing is it's a live preview. So I'm gonna kind of see if you can see both of them. See the giant blue button on the right? Okay, I'm not sure if it's on the left or right in the video. I get confused. But if I click and drag it, can you see it's dragging on both? Okay, so it's live preview, which is super handy. The other thing I want to show you is something, you can see it's quite thin there, okay, it's not, and if I try and make it bigger, you might have done this already and you're like, oh, it's going to make it bigger. And it does this, and the black bars up here. Why is it showing me black bars? It's because over here, if I go back to design view, so back here in Camtasia, I've switched back from prototype to design, and I'm going to move across, click on my artboard homepage name, okay, zoom out. Remember this, viewport height? Okay, the viewport height is what's determining that kind of what you see on that laptop. So what you can do is you can adjust this, and that will give you a taller box on that laptop. The only problem with that is that we're kind of designing for the 768, so we want to just keep that little letterbox window so we can only see that much, so we know what's up kind of above the fold. But that can be a bit painful when you're working. So we'll jump back to the cell phone now, and I'll show you kind of how it works. All right, so you're back. What we're gonna do is go to prototype. Actually, no, be in design. And remember, you can change it over here in viewport, but you can also just drag this line. And this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna drag that line up and down, and watch this, up and down. You can see So if you go too far, it's going to try and put too much into the viewport, and your laptop or my laptop screen can't show it. I want to find just this happy medium of that. Okay, so my viewports ended up being at 1043, and it's good for previewing on this, but I need to realize that, remember, the fold kind of finished up here, so I just need to be conscious of that. But I can't deal with the black bars, so I just adjust my viewport to help me show on my laptop. How confusing was all of that? Hopefully it wasn't too bad. Let's jump back out now. All right, one quick little thing is, loads of people ask me in different videos what monitor that is, because I always talk about it. So I'm just going to show you here so that you can go off and Google it and figure it out if you want to buy it. That's at the top there, is the LG 27UD88W. I bet you can't buy that anymore. It's about a year old now. And depending on when you're watching this video, it could be like 20 years old. But it'll have family members that you can buy. So don't go and buy it. You don't have to, but people email me all the time about that. So I'm just trying to cut that question right out of there. All right, back to the video.
All right, I apologize. I had to look at some of that video I just shot on the cell phone. It was average. Not a cameraman. I hope you found it useful though. And last things I want to kind of just quickly tick off for this kind of basic prototyping. We're going to do like full-on prototyping later on when we've got our kind of high resolution version going, or high fidelity. Okay, so at the moment though, we're just going to cover all the basics, what we need for our wireframes. So a couple of other little things is, if I click on this, go to prototype. If you need to break the wire, okay, so say you're like, oh, I don't want to connect that anymore, there's two things you can do. The easiest is to click, drag, and just let go in no man's land, and it will just kind of snap back to its home. The other thing you can do, I've undone that, is you can click on it and say, I'd like it to go to this. So you're saying, I want it to, when this button is tapped, I want to transition to this page, okay, which is our start trial, and that's the name of the artboard up there. You can just say none, and that gets rid of it as well. The other thing you can do with that trick is, let's say you're in here really close, and like we've got 2 artboards, and it's pretty easy. But you'll have, you can have hundreds of artboards. It's not uncommon. What you can do, instead of trying to drag to like the 100th artboard, it's just too hard. You can click on this and say, actually, I don't want to drag anymore. Dragging's cool, but choose an artboard. I'm going to click Start Trial, and you can see it's done the wire. I'll zoom out. It's connected it instead of dragging it. It's just another way of doing it. The other thing is, you can kind of see it here. If I have black arrow, click in the background, I'm on prototype, and I go, edit, select all. So Command A on a Mac, Control A on a PC to select all. You can get this kind of nice, you can see all the wires going all at once. So you're like, have I done all the buttons? It's really easy to see in this case. Okay, and the one you don't have done is Start Trial. I was playing around with that in the break. So you don't have this one, so that's the one we do need. So Start Trial goes to the same box. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag it and connect it. And this one here goes back when it's done. All right, that is the intro to prototyping and using the live preview on a different monitor. Let's jump into the next video. Hi everyone, in this video we are going to talk about pop-up modals, okay, or overlay boxes. Remember in the last video when you clicked the Start Trial button, you ended up at a new page. We're going to do something when you click this button, you ready for it? Just kind of like pops up over the top, fades out the background, and we don't have to jump pages. It feels a little bit more fluid, if that's the word. It's definitely popular at the moment, so we're going to close it down, open it up, close it down. So we're going to learn how to do that now in our prototype in Adobe XD. All right, first thing to do to create a modal is we still need this artboard, but we don't need a lot of the stuff in it. And plus we're still in prototype mode from when we were working the last video. So switch to design, and we are going to say goodbye to the nav. I'm going to click on that. Goodbye to the, all the footer. So I've just got this last chunk left. Okay, and where should it be? Oh, there's stuff up there too. Make sure you get rid of everything you don't need. So what we want to do is I just want this chunk. I'm gonna have to make sure you got a white box in the background or something to overlay over the top of the home page like you saw in the intro. And let's just give it a try as is. There's a few other things I want to do to it, but let's just cut to the chase, Dan. So we're gonna go back to prototype mode, and we're gonna say when that button is clicked, what's gonna happen? Instead of going over here and going to this tap transition, we're gonna go to tap still, but we're gonna say overlay, and that's the magic sauce. What's going to happen is it's going to overlay that page over the top of this one, excluding the background. Okay, so just the physical things on this page. Let's just give it a preview to see what it looks like. Okay, give it a preview.
Cool, huh? You'll notice by default, if I click anywhere, it gets rid of it. So that's something that just happens by default. A couple of things happen there. One is I did a shortcut to open this preview. Okay, so it is Command Enter on a Mac or Control Enter on a PC. So look down your keyboard, the Enter key. Sometimes it's the return. Sometimes it's got just a little arrow on it. Okay, so hold those down. That launches the preview, which is cool. And let's have a little look at this thing. So you'll notice it's a dotted line. So the solid line shows a transition. This one here is an overlay. Okay, and the other thing that's happening in here is that it's going to that page, it's dissolving, which is fine. It's got everything else that's perfect. What ends up happening to this page, if I click on it, you'll notice this little icon. This little icon here says when anything else is clicked, just go back to not the page next to it, but whatever page you got it from. So what is it called? Return to previous artboard. So if I click the start trial button on like one of the 100 other pages, it's going to load this page. And when I click off, it's going to go back to that original page. Do you get what I mean? So it's not going back to home page, it's going back to wherever you came from, which is really cool. Sometimes that can be turned off though. Like I've broken it where it's just disappeared like that. And you're like, how do I make that happen again? So you click on it and you say tap, which is perfect. And you go to this one that says action, previous artboard. And then it turns into that little return button and goes to that. A couple other things I want is I want the little cross because clicking anywhere is a bit weird for people. So I'm going to go back to that wires UI kit. Okay, for the wireframes, I've closed mine down. Where are you, wires? Okay, and I'm looking for the cross. I could go to Adobe Market or Materials, but I know it's going to be in here. It's going to be easy enough to find. Cool, there's a cross, there's a cross. I'm going to break it apart here. So I'm going to right click it, ungroup symbol, grab that cross, jump back into my other document, and I'm going to put it in the corner here. And because I've used that blue, like that we had in that first one, it's just made it easy. I don't have to recolor everything every time. I'll show you a trick for recoloring it all at the end if you are like, man, I hate that blue. So hold shift down, make it a little bit bigger, and that's going to be my little cross. Even though you can click anywhere, I still feel like you need a button to actually click. So preview, what's the shortcut? Command Enter or Control Enter on a PC. Click on there, cool, huh? Close it down, nice. One of the things I like to do, so I'm gonna close it down, is zoom out, is I'm gonna grab a big rectangle, because you saw at the beginning it kind of grayed out the background. Okay, there's an easy way to do that. Just grab a big old rectangle, give it no border, give it a fill of our black, and then just lower down the opacity of this thing. And then go back to your arrow tool, black arrow, right click it, send it back. All right, so we're going to give it a preview, and there's going to be a couple little issues we need to fix. So previewing, and the weird thing is it previewed from this page. You might have already run into this where sometimes it previews from the home page and sometimes from this. So what ends up happening is if I have nothing selected, so my black arrow, just click in the background, it's going to default to this home page. Why? Because if I go to prototype and if I zoom in the top corner here, can you see this little home icon? That just indicates that if XD is not sure which page you mean, okay, it's going to start from this little home icon. You can change that. You could say start trial could be my home. So that's the default, but that's a bit weird. So I'm going to go back here. The way to override that, and what we did there by accident, is if you click the artboard name, start trial, you're kind of telling XD, just preview this one for me, even though I haven't set it as the home. Okay, and if I click it, it's going to start from there. If I have nothing selected, it'll start from that home screen. Okay, so what's wrong? Let's give it a click. Kind of half works. It's kind of in the middle there, and you're like, oh, what happened to the top bits and the middle bits? Okay, it's a little bit weird. So let me show you the two things that are wrong. One is it's this first option here. If I go back to design, remember when we're doing my crazy cell phone footage, we changed the viewport height. We should probably just switch it back to matching the both of them, because that's the line that I need, right, when I'm previewing. So I'm going to copy it and go back to this. It's up to you. They just have to match. It doesn't really matter if you've gone for the shorter or the taller of the viewport heights. Okay, I'm just going to go back to that original one where we're dealing with the 366 wide and 768, just so I'm aware that that's the that's the line that I can't design underneath, or at least a lot of people won't see what I put under here unless they scroll. So it's going to get rid of part of it. Let's preview that. Back to my kind of like skinnier model, but that's okay. If I click on this, it kind of works, but there's still that top chunk. See this bit here? And I'll show you why that is. So if you go to prototype and I click on this and I click on my button
And you can kind of see it here. So this is a big green thing. Okay. It's going to grab that and jam it and start it wherever the top of the green box is. So what I want to do is close it down. Can you close it down? I'm just clicking on the blue box and grab that and just move it to the top. Okay. So instead of being kind of part the way down, I've just dragged the center bit to the top. Now if I preview and I click on this, kind of covers the whole thing. There we go. Cool, huh? I love pop-up modals. You might not like them. It's definitely a phase that the internet is in and I'm in. Okay, it's just a way of, instead of jumping through like 20 pages, it allows you to kind of jump, you still be able to see where you are, you can go back to it, and you don't have to have this like completely separate page to jump back and forth. Just it feels like a less extra step, even though really it's not. It's just a trick. So especially for login screens, just something that's quite small. Definitely great for like help boxes. That's if you click on the little question mark to give yourself a little hint, it can be helpful. And the trick we did today is we put under design, we put a big black box and we just lowered the opacity down and kind of covered it up to make it really stand out against the background. All right, friends, that is it for this video. I will see you in the next one. All right, it is class project time again. Back to the Manuth furniture. So you've done class project 1 where you made your home page and your contact us page. And we're going to do basically the exact same thing as we did here. Okay, I want you to prototype using prototype mode and connect these two pages from your own Manuth one. So you're going to have a home page plus a contact us page. And you can decide whether you want to do this whole pop-up. It's normally referred to as a modal, okay, that pops up over the top. And yeah, connect it up so you can go back and forth. When you've done that, I want you to send me a screenshot or add it to the assignments here or the comments or share it with social media. And the way to kind of prove it or at least show it, it's quite cool demonstration for your clients as well to see how this all connects. So if you go to prototype mode and go to edit, select all, it selects everything on every artboard. Okay, and it just gives you, see there's little wires that run everywhere. Okay, it just gives you kind of a cool little, I don't know, wireframe flowchart type thing. Take a screenshot. Now, how do you take a screenshot? On a Mac, you hold down your Command key, your Shift key, and 4, and you get that little target. Nothing really has happened yet until you click, hold. Oops, I gotta get rid of that. Select all, Shift, Command, 4, click, hold, and drag it out. So that you might not have heard that, but it took a big kind of snapshotty sound. Okay, and what will happen on your Mac is on your desktop now will be a JPEG. I've got mine going to a special folder called screenshots, but there it is there. I've got that done. So on a Mac, select all, and then Command Shift 4, drag a box around, hear the little snappy noise, and you'll have it on your desktop. On a PC, not really a PC person, I used to be, but I've listed them here. It turns out there's like a few different ways. So you either hold your Windows key and hit print screen, and that will take the screenshot. Or on some versions of Windows, you hold the Windows key and you hold Control and press print screen. Print screen is often tied up in that above your kind of cursors around your arrows keys. So see if you can find one that says print screen. There's another one where it's, if you're on a laptop, I think, if you're hold your Windows key, hit the FN, the function key, normally down the bottom left of your keyboard, and then hit print screen. One of those things might work and you'll end up with a folder called screenshots inside of your pictures folder. So go to my documents, pictures, and there should be a screenshots one in there. If I'm wrong, please drop it in the comments so that you can help other Windows users. I'm not a big Windows user, so hopefully one of these ones work for you. Once you've done it, share it with me, share it with the group. And it's more, you won't get much feedback because like you just have the wires, but it's kind of just keeping you accountable before we move on. And of course, to practice your new fancy XD techniques. All right, to the next video. Hi everyone, this video is all about working with groups and isolation mode. There's just some quirky things that happen with groups inside of XD, so let's cover them now. So first thing is we're still in prototype mode. Let's switch back to design mode. And we're gonna make a group and then work out kind of some tricks for working with it. So let's grab our black arrow. Let's draw a box that kind of starts out here and drags across all of these, including the text. Okay, you'll know you've got it all when you can kind of move it all in one big group. So what I'd like to do with it all selected, you're going to go to Object, I'm going to go to Group. Okay, so Command G or Control G on a PC, and now it's a group. The only thing that really changes is I don't have to kind of be as careful when I select it. I can grab any of this blue area and it's all selected. But you know what a group is, and you're like, there better be more for this entire video. Not much more, but let's have a little look at working with groups. So I'm going to zoom in. Command 3 is a good one in this case. It's going to go around the whole selection. And what I'd like to do is I want to say I want to switch one of these. I want to switch example, okay, around with pricing. So instead of ungrouping it, moving it, then grouping it again, you can go into what's called isolation mode. And it's a fancy name for just going inside the group, diving inside. And you do it by double clicking. If I click on it once, I get the whole thing. But if I double click example, you can see this weird little lightly colored cyan box appears around it, okay, and it just means I'm inside of it. And what that means is I can move this within the group, okay. So if I move it over here, where is something I can see it? Can't see it. You can kind of see it down there, like the white text against the gray background. This just says I'm still in isolation mode because there's that box around it. But if I click out in the background here, okay, so you can work within groups without having to ungroup them. That's, I guess, what I want to get through to you here, so that when I'm working with symbols in the next video, it's a little easier. So I'm going to double click them again, put them back, and I want to switch these two around. So I want to go you over here, you over there, same grouping, you grouping there. To come back out, just click anywhere outside the box, and that is isolation mode. Is he not lined up? He is not lined up, is he? He's a bit higher. Okay, I'm going to use that one. All right, that's it. You can dive into groups. You can come back out again without having to try and regroup them all. And that seems like a simple thing here. We've got a really simple wireframe, but when you get into some more detailed multi-card UIs with repeat grids and all sorts of fun stuff later on, know that you can dive in and out. Makes it easier. All right, on to the next video. Hi there, this video is all about making symbols. Symbols are just objects that are connected together, and they're really handy for things like footers and heading navigations like we've got here. You can see it's on all of the pages. Watch what happens when let's zoom in a little bit. If I adjust this logo here, watch this one over here, and I'll drag this one over here. Can you see? When you adjust one, they all go and adjust. You can see how beneficial that will be when you've got lots of pages. They're all using lots of shareable features, symbols, easy to make, easy to update. Let's jump in now and work out how to make them. All right, first up, what is a symbol? All a symbol is it's kind of like a group, but what we do is we create a symbol instead of a group, and it means that when I use this navigation on lots of different pages, when I update it, because it's a symbol, they'll all update. So you can see how useful that is when you get to something like this, where you've used something on lots of different pages, and instead of just copying and pasting it and trying to update it all manually, you can update the symbol, and they'll all update. So let's work out how to do that now. So first up, we need to be, if you're on your layers panel, switch to your assets panel, the little icons down here. And there's a competition. Who's got the most random symbols in their symbols library? I've got one because I've been quite good throughout this course. I've been deleting the symbols that I didn't need. Write in the comments or the notes how many you've got. Okay, surely it's got to be more than one. Two, anybody? Three? It's competition, so who's got the worst. So before we go any further, I'm going to have nothing selected. I'm going to select everything that's in here, right click it and delete it. Where do those come from again? Just to make sure you're aware, the person that made this wires, I forget who made this, but they've created lots of symbols in here. Okay, and when you copy and paste them in, they come along for the ride. So let's find a symbol. Gotta be one of these. If I copy it and paste it, you see it just appears over here in my symbols library. Okay, so delete all your symbols. So we're going to start fresh slate. We're going to click on this. Everything that you want is part of the symbol. We've made a group already. You don't have to make it a group, but it is. It's all nice and locked together. To create a symbol, you just go over to here, make sure you're in your assets panel, symbols, hit the little plus, and there is our first symbol. It's called symbol 4, which is not very exciting. I'm going to call this one top nav. Top nav. Okay, and that's a little icon of it there because it's that long, thin blue thing. It's a little hard to see, but you get the idea, right? You'll notice one of the differences is, can you see it's got a green line around the outside where it didn't before, it was blue? And the real big perk now is if I duplicate this page, because I need a new page. So remember, you can go to your layers panel, have nothing selected, right click home page and go to duplicate. That's the last time I'm going to do it. Or you can see there, duplicate is Command D on my Mac. I'm going to do it my way the rest of the course. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to hold down my Option key on a Mac, Alt key on a PC, and just make a duplicate. I want to get rid of all of this. I'm going to unlock these. Wrong shortcut down. Command L or Control L on a PC to unlock the boxes. And over here, I want to rename it. Double click it. Let's call this one Dashboard. Hit return. You can rename it over here, okay, if you're on this layers panel, or you can double click it over here. So we've got our dashboard, and the cool thing about it is because we duplicated it, it's got the symbol top nav on both of them. Now, let's say the client comes back and says, actually, Dan, we don't like the word login. We're going to use sign in. Or let's say, like, I don't know, I go through problems of like, is it login? I know technically it's meant to be log space in, but you see lots of sites use login, and is that more like, it's all about the users, not about, I don't know, my grammar in English is terrible, but I have arguments about what you should use. Say the client comes back and says, actually, it's sign in, even though, you know, they've decided through testing that the audience will prefer sign in, and that's cool. And you'll notice how we got in there. It was just like we did for that group. Kind of skipped over that a little bit. So it's one big unit, but if I double click it to go inside, I get that green halo around the outside, and I can adjust it. If I want to get out of it, I just click on the outside. So I've adjusted my symbol, but what's happened over here? Let's have a look. It is still login. Okay, you're like, huh, didn't he say that that's what symbols are for? Okay, what you need to do is once you've updated it, you can tell it. You can say, actually, you, my friend, I'm going to right click you, and I'm going to say push overrides. What that means is going to push this override. So I've overridden the original, which used to say login, and I've changed it to sign in. I'm going to push those overrides to the other guys. So I'm going to click it, and you'll see over here, it's now sign in. Some things don't require you to push overrides. Have a look. Physically moving things doesn't. Watch what happens. It's mainly just text. You can see both of them. Okay, a little hard to do on your video because it's going to be quite small, but hopefully you get the idea. Can you see this teeny tiny squiggle of a logo? If I click it, I move it. Can you see it's moving on both of them? Whee. So physically moving something changes on both of them. If I go through and click on this blue background and change the color of it, you can see it changes on both. It's when you're dealing with text and text amends where you need to push overrides. Now, the way we generated the second symbol was by copying and pasting the original homepage. Let's say we don't do that because let's say I want to grab all of the footer. Okay, I want to convert him into a symbol. So back to my assets, hit the little plus. This one's going to be called footer. Footer. And you'll notice that this guy's not. Okay, so I can make changes to this one. So I double clicked it, pick a different color. It's not changing because remember we only kind of made this symbol now. This version over here is not connected. So if I'm done, I want to delete that. And the way to do it is we could use our trick where we just hold Option on a Mac, Alt on a PC to get a copy, or you can drag it from the symbols library here. Okay, so you go to your assets panel and grab the footer, just drag it off. Either way, as long as it's got the green line around the outside, you are good to go. Now, what other things should be symbols? Like these icons should so be symbols. Because if later on the client comes back and says, that's not good, I don't like the design of that, you'll have to go and find every instance of it. So you can click on this now, set plus, okay, and this one's going to be, I always start with icon hyphen, and then this is image. So you've got a list of icons over there. The trouble is I need to bin him and duplicate him. So it's best to start working with symbols early on in your design rather than, you can't fold these back in later on because there's no point. So yeah, anything you feel like it's going to be reusable and you want to update, convert it into a symbol. You can update them easily by double clicking it and going inside of them unless you're doing text. If you update text, you need to right click the symbol and go to push overrides. All right, those are symbols. We're going to do some hardcore symbols later on in the course when we get a bit further, because you can connect them between documents and we can go down the rabbit hole of symbols, which we'll do later on when we get a bit more advanced. But for now, it is time for the next video. Hi there, welcome to this production video. If you see any of the video titles throughout this course, I think there's maybe another one or two. Production videos are just videos where I actually have to make something like this didn't exist in the last tutorial and we need it going forward, but it's nothing very exciting. It's a blue box with text in it. So you can skip ahead and just do that by yourself. I'm going to leave this video in here for the people that are new and just want to see how it gets done and any tips that I do along the way. If you're going to skip along, the text is hidden in your exercise files. It's called left nav. There's all the text you need. You could put in random text. The big thing you need to do is just make sure it's a symbol. You can see I call it left nav over here. But it's a short video. You can follow along or you could skip it. Let's get started. Or not. All right, first thing is we're going to create a big blue box. I'm going to grab my rectangle tool. I'm going to practice my shortcut for showing me the column so I can see the edge. Anybody remember what it was? I want to see that big kind of cyan column. you need to make sure that your artboard is selected first, Command Shift and hit the apostrophe key. If you're like, what's the apostrophe key? What is he talking about? It is under View. It's this one here. So that's the kind of Command Shift and whatever that key is. On a PC, it's Control Shift and that key. Cool. So I want a box that goes from about here all the way down, actually, all the way down my page. I'm not sure how long it's going to be. You end up resizing the pages all the time. It should snap to the edge. If it doesn't, grab your black arrow and just see if you can adjust it again. Watch, snap. Okay, and I'm going to have mine. You can't change the default at the moment. Okay, if you're like, man, I wish it wasn't always having this gray border and a white fill. Yeah, you can't change that at the moment, as far as I know. And trust me, I've looked. But you might be in a later version of it and they might have adjusted that for you. Cool, so I've used it just to make sure I've got the edge here. I'm going to turn it off again. Now I have no artboard selected, so I spend my time going Command Shift apostrophe and nothing happens. So you've got to click on it and then do that shortcut and it disappears. All right, next thing I want to do is, there's nothing fancy going to happen in here. I'm going to grab one of these guys. Fancy, I'm going to go into this, copy it, and if I paste it now, it ends up being as part of that symbol. That's not what I want. I want to copy it out. So I'm going to copy it, click outside of the box so it's deselected, now paste it, and it kind of comes out and it's not connected to that symbol. Or you might just grab the type tool, it might be easier. Now there's left nav. I have the text in your exercise files. Where is the exercise files? There's one in there called text and fonts. There's one called left nav. So if you can't be bothered typing it in, or you can't spell like I can, you can double click, paste. I'm gonna make sure mine's left aligned, that's perfect. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Alt, grab this, grab another one. How many do I need? Not very exciting tutorial, I know. 3, 4. Okay, I need 4 of them. And the reason I'm not putting them in as one text box, do you remember? Because I want them to be separately clickable when I start doing my prototype. I didn't even count before. That seems like enough. So I'm going to speed through it now. Ready, steady, speeding, paste. And we're back. The reason I just don't jump to this, because I don't know, I want to show you that a couple of things, a couple of shortcuts, but I also want to make sure that you turn this into a symbol. Okay, so I'm going to select everything. Okay, make it a symbol. I'm going to call you left nav. And that should be us. Short little video, totally skippable. Just make sure you've got this little grouping going over here. That was boring. The next video, repeat grids, you're going to love. Super exciting. Hi everyone, welcome to the video about repeat grids. Repeat grids are one of XD's like secret super duper awesome powers. Watch this, I've made this little card here. I'm gonna make 3 of them. Oh, 4, no 3. And drag them out and just kind of repeats forever. Really handy for repetitive like search results or these kind of cards for this dashboard. Makes them quick and easy. You can adjust them really easy, but you can go into them and make like little simple changes. Can you see? This one's 3,000, that one's 1,000. Really handy. Let's jump in and see how to make it. All right, to get started with our repeat grid, we're gonna do it on the dashboard. I'm gonna borrow this text here, copy it, click on this one, paste it. This is gonna be my dashboard page, dashboard. Maybe use left align text even. Cool. So we need to draw the first unit, okay? And we're gonna be dealing with these things called cards. Cards are just a term used to describe like a nice little unit. So let's have a look at this example here. So this is one of the examples in your exercise files under UI kits. And let's have a look. There's a bunch of cards in this one. So see this little unit here? It's got like, let's have a look. Where's a better one? This is typical, a nice typical one. It's got like this white box, got this little like graphic in the top, images. It's got it's a unit. It's a reusable, repurposable unit. Okay, they're called cards. And this one here is is a card as well. They happen lots on cell phones as well, but we're looking at web ones at the moment. So let's make our own little wireframe card, and it's going to be ugly. Remember, no design, just some basic stuff. So I'm going to draw out a white box. I'm going to grab some text elements. I'm going to zoom this up because it's not very exciting. All right, we're back. Just made some basic text. Actually, this is going to be $signs. Cool. The one thing I will note in there is that I did use the resizing text for, remember, as long as it's point text, you can use black arrow to do that. It's kind of cool. And I made it bold. That's it. So I've got this card and I want to repeat it. You can copy and paste it. That works. Okay, black arrow, copy, paste. But the repeat grid is one of the neat tricks that XD has. And what it is you select all of your text with your black arrow, then grab this one here that says repeat grid in the top right hand corner, and you just drag any corner, any side, either the bottom or the top. Ready, steady. It's just magic. You're like, how magic is that? It just duplicates it. I can do that. But look, it does it down here as well. You're still partly impressed. Where it gets quite impressive is the kind of spacing. Watch this. I've done nothing. I'm still on the same arrow, but when I start having my cursor between these guys, you can start to see, ooh, look at that. Okay, so you can start to see that one. I'm going to drag it. Can you see the little number over here? Can you see it there? So I'm going to get to say, let's say I want them to, I'm going to turn on my shortcut, Command Shift apostrophe, okay, or Control Shift apostrophe on a PC. Okay, I'm going to drag it in so they line up there. Can you see how useful that is? And it's 20. Okay, I clicked on it and you can see 20 at the top. I can't really point at it. There. So I can adjust this one to 20. I need to see that side there. So they're both at 20. So I've got this nice even spacing. If you've ever done the distribute centers fun game in Illustrator or InDesign or any program, that's not fun at all. So the repeat grid is just real handy for that. Where it's also really good is it's kind of like a symbol. Watch this. If I move it, if I double click it to go inside this first one, can you see they all are connected? I can do little changes. So I can do things like this one here is now 3000 and they don't update. So you can do some like this one here is called stats. This one's called forecast. So you can do, you know, text adjustments and they can all be unique. Okay. And you can still use this repeat grid if you need some more. Watch this. Click out, click it back on, and it's still this repeat grid. You can see it's repeating it. Lovely. Okay. But you can do some little text amends to make them all kind of look and feel individual. We'll do some more hardcore repeat grids later on when we start using things like images and pulling from CSV files. You can be pretty hardcore with it, but for the moment, it's just a really quick, easy trick for doing repeating anything. We could have done it for this text over here, but I wanted to do it for something a little bit more exciting like these cards. One thing to do though is say you do need to physically, you know, you need this one to be over here and this one to be different. Often you'll need to ungroup these things. So I'm going to click off in the background. Click on it once. There's an option up here that says ungroup the grid. Okay, and that just kind of breaks it all apart. So it's you can't do that repeat grid thing anymore. It's still one big unit, so you can ungroup it. Right click, ungroup, and then you've got all these kind of like different parts to it now, which is quite cool. So you might just use the repeat grid to kind of get it in there, duplicate them quite a few times, get the alignment all nice, and then ungroup them and work away. I'm going to undo that because I want it to be back to this repeat grid, just in case later on I'm like, actually I need a couple more of these. Or I need to adjust the spacing because I've played around with this left nav. How many do you need in this example to follow me? It doesn't matter. Up to you. Cool, so that's the introduction to the repeat grid. Let's get on to the next video. Hey there, in this video, you are going to learn some of the issues that you can run into with using Adobe XD, especially with resizing symbols. You're gonna learn how that's a weird thing that can't be fixed, but we'll work out how to do it. The other thing is when you're working with repeat grids, sometimes they just disappear and you're like, what do I do now? Okay, so we're gonna work through that in the class, plus how to add and update to repeat grids. All right, buddies, let's jump in. Okay, first thing we're going to do is just duplicate our dashboard. We're going to end up with that courses page. So double click the name at the top here, courses. I'm going to bin our dashboard and I'm going to rename this. This one's going to be called courses. So an instructor can log in, check their stats and see what courses they've got made and edit them, that type of thing. That's what this is meant to do anyway. Now I'm going to show you a couple of issues that you're going to run into. You might have already run into them already. So I'm going to create like a little repeat grid here. The first thing I'm going to do is just draw a little shape for our placeholder video. I want it to be an image, like a little thumbnail. So I'm going to grab the image and we might have it in our assets panel. We do there, icon image. I'm going to drag this out. It's a bit big and I want to shrink it down, and that is going to run into our first problem. So symbols are awesome. The problem is they can't be different sizes. I know you're like, what? I'll show you a link at the end where you can go to and request this feature from Adobe. You might be in the future and it might be totally doable. It's not at the moment. So what ends up happening is like, I want to resize this, right? I can't resize it until I like double click it. And now I'm inside that symbol, and now I can resize it. Okay, remember we have to turn our responsive resize off. We did that earlier in the course, so I've made it smaller. Okay, and I come out of it by just clicking outside, and that's cool, I've resized it. What's wrong, Dan? Go back to the original though, back to the beginning here. Where are you? These guys got teeny tiny, because they're all connected. So I'm gonna undo again. Ooh, you can't undo that. There's even extra problem. No, you can. Just got to keep undoing. And hopefully now back at the beginning, they're back to the original size. All right, so what do we do? Basically, it's just, there's no real good way. You make it not a symbol. So right click it, say ungroup symbol, and now it's not a symbol anymore. They are not connected. So I'm going to shrink it down, and this just happens to be, I might just probably live with it the bigger size, but I guess I wanted to show you here as a problem. So now I can resize it. I could turn it into like another symbol. I could say actually there's icon image large and small. But how helpful is that now? It kind of loses its, this would be my small version. Why not? Let's just do that. All right, so that's one of the problems. The next one is, I'm just gonna skip ahead while I'll get the editor to zoom this forward because I'm just gonna build some stuff. I need to create our problem first, so I'll do that and I'll explain it in a sec. So I will see you in a zippy sec. All right, you're back. So you're playing along, you're gonna have to do this. So create your little thumbnail video image thing, just a bit of sample text, it's nothing, just like a placeholder. And I grabbed the check mark from the wires web that we've been using. And the trash is just in your exercise files in the images and icons. And there's one in there called trash. So we do it, and I want a few of them, right? So I'm gonna use our sweet new repeat grid. So I've selected them all. Repeat grid, please. They go green. I can just go wham. I love that. Okay, so I've just got lots of them. Cool. Now, where is the problem? This is the problem you run into is I actually want this, two things I wanna do. I wanna add to this repeat grid. Okay, I forgot, conveniently, to kind of show you, I guess, is I want to add like an edit button. There's a turn it on and off, there's a delete, but I want there to be an edit button so you can go into the course and do some edits. So how do you do it? First of all, let's bring in the edit icon. So I'm just gonna go to my import. So file import, there's one in here called edit. Okay, so it's in the exercise files, not in images and icons. I've got a separate folder called icons. Let's go to edit. And bring in the SVG, there it is there. Okay, what color is it gonna be? I'm going to switch it to the blue to match everything else. Cool, so I wanted to get in here and repeat. So how do I get it in there? I grab it, I go edit, cut. Okay, it's gone. And then I go double click to go inside. And it's like what you did with symbols. Repeat grid shares a lot of the kind of same sort of functions. Okay, so you double click it to go inside, and you don't have to, it doesn't matter what you've got selected in here, as long as this kind of like thick green line appears, I can just go paste. You can see it appeared on all of them. And that's just the way of getting stuff in afterwards, okay, if it wasn't in there originally. Cool, so I'm gonna have it edit, that'll do. Cool, so that's how to get stuff in there. Not really a problem. Where the problem lies is, that's more of a trick to kind of add to repeat grids. The problem is this, is actually, I've decided I want this to line on the edge of my grid here. Okay, so just under where it says start trial, I want these all to be right aligned. So watch this, double click to go inside, didn't get it, double click on something easy. That was easier to click on. So I'm inside my repeat grid. I'm gonna select all you guys, and I go, just come over here. Okay, they all just disappear. This is a bit weird. So you've got two options now. I'm going to undo that. So the option might be just actually, let's just click on this, ungroup the grid, delete all these guys, and just do it properly. You know, get them lined up. First, I've ungrouped them all. I'm just going to kind of go back. Now I can make a repeat grid. Fine. But that's a way of doing it. Another way is this. It's a bit of a, I'm not sure. It's kind of like drag and shuffle is what I'm calling it. Dragging and shuffling. All right. So what we want to do is we want to say, drag it to the right. And you're like, why? Oh, that's why you can't drag it to the right, because there's just more of them appears. But if you drag it out kind of where you need it to be, and then come back in here and find the gap. So you drag it out and then you kind of just shuffle these guys across. okay, till they're out of the picture of where you need these fellas to be. Then I can drag it back in to get rid of them. Bye guys. But there's enough room now for these fellas. So now I can double click it, drag it across, and then I move them across, and we are sweet. I made it, have I made it look easy? Kind of. I always find how, like if you are following along, you're like, oh, I'll give that a go, seems easy. And you're like, man, it's wrecking my head. It does wreck my head too. So often I just ungroup it and start again. So yeah, just so you know, there will be times where you're like, oh, I just want to move this to this way. And you're like, oh, I can't because the edge isn't there. So I'm just going to extend this out. But there's just some issues when it comes to repeat grids. It might be easier just to ungroup it, right click it, ungroup grid, and delete everything you need and just start again. So that is it. We learn how to add new things to an existing repeat grid, which is cool. And then we just kind of identified one of the problems of dragging it kind of to the right where the edge was earlier defined. Plus we looked at the problem of symbols, okay, and the weird thing where you can't resize them. And also at the beginning there, I told you where to go and vote for this thing. I've talked about it before, I think. Adobe uses this thing called user voice. Okay, user voice is a way that we as users have a voice. Okay, it means we can go in and say, hey Adobe, that thing really needs to be fixed. And if you go to adobexd.com, adobexd.uservoice.com and do searches in here, do a search down here for, this one is called scale and resize symbols individually. It depends on like whether you find that a big deal. For me, half. It's not my hardest, it's not my biggest problem with XD. It's just one of them, but give it a vote. Okay, you got to log in, okay, or sign in with Facebook or Google. And what they do is they just look at all the ones that have votes and start making adjustments on the ones that have issues. And the other cool thing is often you can find workarounds down here. There'll be some of the Adobe people jump in and say, hey, there's a workaround, it's not great, but this one here, it's got 1,174 votes. All right, that's it. Let's get on to the next video. Hi there, this video is all about some prototype tricks. Okay, we're getting quite close to the end with our wireframe for at least our desktop, and there are gonna be some things where you're like, man, that's taken a long time, or it seems very exhausting. I'm gonna show you a couple of tricks to fix that. Watch this, ready? Navigation on all pages, all linked. Ah, so good. I think it's good anyway. Let's jump in and work out how to do it. All right, we're coming to the end of our prototyping, at least our desktop. We'll do the prototyping and app in the next couple of videos, but we're coming to the end of this, and I want to share with you a few tricks for prototyping, because if you're working on a large document, man, there could be some big issues with just a lot of repetitive tasks that can be fixed with a few little tricks. So we're in design view, and let's say that I want to use this start trial button again. I'm going to grab both of these, copy it, and I need to use it on this one over here. I'm going to paste. So we're going to have this like start trial button down the bottom here. Not for a good reason really, just I want to show you. So by copying it in design view, if I go to prototype now, it doesn't do anything, right? It's just a button that I've got to then go and link, right? I've got to zoom out and I've got to say, actually you go and link here now. But we already did that, right? So let me show you a different way of doing it. It's pretty easy. You can see the button already has that on it, right? But if I copy and paste it via design view, it only grabs the design. If I grab it via prototype, so just be in prototype, okay, I've collected both of these, I've copied them, it'll bring both the design stuff, so the blue box and the text, but also if I paste it over here, can you see it brought my lovely little animation as well, or my overlay. Okay, so it brings both of them. So this is super handy. If you're like, I'm going to copy everything from a page and bring it across, you might as well do it in prototype mode. You'll forget. I do. You're like, damn it. And you have to relink everything. So another thing you can do is when you're duplicating pages, get in the habit of not doing it in design view, even though that's the more natural place to be doing it. Grab prototype, and let's say I want another courses page, dashboard page. I don't have any prototypes done on this one. Let's find, say the home page. We want to duplicate it. I'm going to do it down here just for giggles. Okay, remember we've been holding down the Option key on a Mac, the Alt key on a PC, but we've been doing it in design view. Bad. Do it in prototype view. See this, when I duplicate it, I've got some of that navigation already going. There's not much going in here, but you can get the idea, right? If you've linked the entire nav, you don't want to have to redo it every time you duplicate a page. Switch to prototype. Another cool little trick you can do is, the navigation's the big one you end up having to redo loads. What I end up doing is I'm going to make a duplicate of the home page. Okay, this is just going to be my nav holder page. It's not going to go out to the client. I'm just going to use this for myself. I'm going to get rid of everything on it. including the empty boxes. There's nothing on here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste using prototype view to this guy here. So what I want to do is I want to grab the logo, and when that's clicked, it goes to this page. Okay, when the pricing, I don't have that yet. Example is going to go to my dashboard. Okay, so it's too far away, so I'm just going to use a little arrow. When it's clicked, transition to dashboard. Cool. And start trial is definitely something that already works. So when that's clicked, it's going to transition. It's actually going to do the overlay to start trial. It's going to go, it's landed in the right position. Cool. The reason I do it on its own page, and you're like, why not just do it on the home page and then use that? Because the home page has one problem, is I want to link to the home page from this, and I can't do it because this is, I would like you to link to, and you can't link to itself. Okay, so whenever you copy and paste this, say you use this as your default, you copy it, you update it, you copy it, and you paste it on all of these, it's not going to link back to the home page. So I have this kind of like throwaway page. All it does is hold my navigation. It's going to hold both that and that left navigation on it. We're getting probably a little bit too advanced. I realize as I'm explaining, I'm like, this might be too hardcore at the moment. If you do, you're like, man, he's baffled me. Just forget what I said in the last minute or two. Okay, for the people that are like, this is actually helpful, carry on. We'll do a little bit longer before we move on. So we've got that links to that, that links to that, that links to that. It's perfect. So I'm going to show you another cool trick is so I'm going to bin all these, because otherwise I have to go through and click on example and link to that and example, link to that. So it's a bit of a pain. So I'm going to grab all you fella, you've gone, I'm getting rid of all of these. And so this is my one that I've just updated. I've done a text change or linked somewhere else or added a new button. I'm going to copy it, and you can just click on the name, hit paste, click on the name, paste, click on the name, paste. Remember, we're always doing it in prototype, so all the links come along, and that works. Not when you've got 100 pages though. Okay, I'll show you another cool little trick is I'm going to click on the word here, hold shift, click on start trial. I'm holding down that shift key the whole time, clicking on all the course names, and then watch this, ready, paste. Puts in them all of them at the same time. It's great for footers and navigation, and yeah, I'm going to do the same thing with this left-hand nav. I'm going to grab you, my friend, copy it, come over here, paste it. Okay, and this is going to be courses page is going to go to my courses page. Dashboard's going to go to my dashboard. And it's not making if you're like, it doesn't seem like much of a change. It's a whole lot nicer when we've got all of these pages built out. Cool. So now I can copy it, grab them. Delete this guy, goodbye. Delete this guy, goodbye. Click on both of these, hit paste. You're either there was only 2 of them. Would have been quicker to link them. And that could still be the case. Or I might have just gone a bit too advanced too early. I'm gonna leave it in the course. We're 22 videos in now, we're getting the swing of things. But that's it, some tricks for prototyping. If you take nothing else out of this course is, if in doubt, just copy and paste using prototype, not design, because you get best of both worlds. All right, see you in the next video. Hi there, this video is all about navigation tricks and tips. It's also just identifying some of the problems, okay? Some of the things you're like, why didn't he explain us a good way of doing that? Sometimes there just isn't. We'll go through them now, ways that I get around them. And if you've got better ways, I'd love to hear them. Drop them in the comments. I'm always looking ways. Navigation's probably one of the harder things to do in XD. Navigation's one of the, I guess, troublesome things I find using XD to try and go fast. Anyway, the one I use the most is basically what I do is if I need to go to a page that's far away, there's no jump to page button, which is annoying. Okay, so all I do is I hold Command down on a Mac, Control down on a PC. We've done these shortcuts before, but I'm going to show you how I use them to move around. I go Command 0, I click on the page that I want to get to, I click on anything in it, go Command 3, which zooms in on it, and then I go Command 1. So you're on a PC, it's Control all of those things. So it's a bit weird, so I need to go back to the first page. Ready? Command 0, click on something, Command 3, 1. 3 is just too close, but at least you pulls your focus all the way over to that artboard, then you can hit on Command 1. Not nice, I know, but it's the way I get around. If you've got a better way, 0, 3, 1. Works for me anyway. Now the real big thing that I found speeded up my workflow is my mouse. Okay, so not everyone's gonna have this. You might be working on a laptop with a little touchpad, kind of squirreling away with that. I do that lots, but in XD, a real super helpful one is a mouse with one of those wheels in the middle. Lots of them have it. I'll show you, I'll jump out onto my cell phone and I'll show you my one at the moment because I quite like it. It's pretty cool. But that's probably the best one to go in and out. Okay, in and out, up and down. So naturally, I'm just going to be on this page here. And if I use my scroll wheel up and down, okay, it just moves me up and down the page, which is cool. If I hold shift though, it goes left and right, which can be quite handy. You can just kind of like zoom across from holding shift. So nothing held down, up and down with my mouse, and then shift left and right. Where the real magic happens if you hold down the Option key on a Mac or the Alt key on a PC. You might have seen me do this in the course. It's just really nice. Like, so Command 0, and all you do is point your mouse to where you want to go, hold down the Option key on a Mac, Alt key on a PC, and just scroll the wheel. Scroll it back out. Goes to wherever your mouse is, and that's probably the biggest thing. I don't know how I discovered that. I'm like just started holding down keys to see if that'd work. Works on lots of programs as well, so other Adobe ones. Point where the mouse wants to go, and then zoom in and out. Now I'm going to jump to my cell phone because this particular mouse, if you're like, ooh, that sounds like a good idea, or your mouse just isn't doing that as fluid, it's kind of like going tick, 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 and doing it in small bits. I'll show you the one that I've got real quick.
Hi everyone, we're back to bad audio and bad cell phone footage, but I wanted to show you this mouse. Yeah, it's nothing fancy. Where is it? I found the name of it. It's called this. It's the M720 Triathlon multi-device mouse. That one's got a different name. You can buy that by itself. You don't need the keyboard. I bought both of them because I like Bluetooth, and I wanted, and it connects to. I can have it connected, see those buttons there, 1, 2, 3, and see that 1, 2, 3 on this one? I can have it connected to my computer if it's on one, but then if I had two, oh, I'll turn it off, it connects to my phone by Bluetooth, and both of these two, and it's weird, it's cool. You can use your cell phone using a keyboard and a mouse. You get a little cursor and all, and I find it really good for things like Instagram, where I want to like type in Instagram and not try and smash away at the tiny keyboard. I don't know if it works for a Mac. You'll have to, oh, sorry, an iPhone. I'm using Android. I've got a Pixel 3, one of Google's phones. It definitely works for that. Anyway, the main reason is I like it is because it's really handy for using XD. So let's jump into XD. So that's the scroll wheel I was talking about, right? And normally it does this, right? You kind of just go up and down, and it just, you know, whoop-de-doo. It's handy, but this one here has a cool function where normally it's this like little clickety click 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 thing. If I click this off though, watch this, it spins. You watch it, watch it, watch it. Can you see? It spins on forever, and that's really handy. Really handy. And when I'm zooming in and out, okay, I'll jump back to a. Or actually, you saw it in the last one. I can't hold the Option key down on this to zoom in, but it's going up and down. It means I can just kind of flick it, and it keeps zooming in or sliding up or left or right until that little wheel stops spinning. I find it real handy. How handy you might find it. They're not that expensive, these things. Anyway, I just thought I'd give you my little tip. Alright, that's going to be it. That'll be it for this video as well. We will jump into the next one. I'll see you over there. Bye now.
Hi everyone, it's back to our class project. Okay, so you're going to be working on your Maynooth furniture project, and there's going to be kind of two main things. We're going to use some of the tools that we've learned so far, plus you're going to build a couple of pages. So I want you to first of all go through, check your assets panel, and just delete anything in there that shouldn't have been in there. You know how if you copied from that Wires artboards, you might have brought in stuff unintentionally. So clear it all out, and then make your top navigation and that footer symbols for me. Give them names. Then I want you to create a new artboard called your category page. Okay, so it doesn't have to be living room. I've just given you a suggestion here. So remember we had a home page, and then you can't just like dive straight into products. Okay, you could link to the homepage of products, but often people want to go and look at bedroom or kitchen room. Yeah, kitchen room, Dan. Living room, dining room, that sort of stuff. And so pick one of those categories, and you're going to have lots of stuff in there. So let's say it's the living room. You're going to have a list of things that go in the living room, like armchairs and couches, and I can't think of anything else, but have that list, because I want you to practice using your repeat grid. So make one kind of listing, either a card, or remember the cards we did were like these ones here on the dashboard. Okay, so kind of nice little cards, or it might be listings this kind of way, more like a category listing. So do that on that page. What else? Repeat grid. So also list out everything you think should go on this page. So I haven't given you specifically what should go on this categories page. So have a look at some existing sites. It doesn't have to be it can be any sort of e-commerce site, but you might as well look at stuff that you know in terms of furniture shops and just see how they do. If you go to if you go to IKEA and go to their kitchens, what's their kitchen page, what kind of gets listed on these pages, so you get an idea of what potentially should go on there. You got to remember to keep Catherine in mind as well. Remember our persona. So what would she need to make a decision? So it might be very different. Like Amazon's going to have a lot of different stuff on that kind of like category page than say something like Habitat or IKEA or eBay. So we're going to have like, they've all got different users using it. So keep Katrina in mind to decide what should go on that page. So that's that page, the category page. You're also going to create the product page. So that would be, okay, so homepage, click on living room. All right, I click on armchairs, or I click on an armchair from that page and I go into it. Okay, it's a little 3-seater and I go into it, and what would be on this page. So again, go through some of the other links up here or your own ones, list out what you think Katrina would like and what would help her make a decision to buy. Remember, our goal is for her to be able to buy and get it delivered to our house. So list out what should go on that product page and then add that to your wireframe. Once you've got those pages, okay, your category page and then a product page, you can pick any product and prototype them all together. So just get all the links working so that you can actually test it and click through from the home page to the category page to the product page, get all those mockups working. Then using some of the techniques we've used earlier, take a screenshot maybe of all the wires and the pages you've done and share it with us. Remember, on this page or in the assignments or in the comments or on social media. Remember, Instagram, I am Bring Your Own Laptop, and on Twitter, I am Dan Loves Adobe. Also, remember, there's a link here in the Word doc. You'll find it one of them for the Facebook group. The other thing you need to do is, if you upload one, you've got to jump in. Even if you don't upload one, jump in and give somebody else a thumbs up, smiley face, or some criticism, constructive criticism, okay, or just what you liked about it. So we're all getting started, and a lot of people are doing it in isolation, kind of in their spare time, or it's just nice to jump in and help out other people as well. I'll try and jump in as much as I can as well. And that's it. That's class project video over. On to the next video. Hey there, in this video, we're going to mock up a basic part of our app, link it up, look at some of the specific transitions that you will use for an app, and some of the things you need to be aware of when you're working with other people's UI kits. All right, let's get started. Okay, so to create our phone, we're gonna use the Artboard tool. Okay, it's the second from the bottom. Okay, Artboard tool. Currently, iPhone X10 is the latest one, or 8. Okay, so I'm gonna do it for the iPhone 6, 7, and 8. They use a real standard kind of height and width. The iPhone X has that kind of like little chunk taken out of the top. It's up to you. I'm gonna click on it and it adds it. I'm gonna add mine just down to the bottom here. There's no real reason for that. You might have them in a separate document. Okay, the only trouble is you have to copy and paste bits across. But so there's my first little artboard. You might be in the future and there might be a 9 or an 11 or 12. Okay, obviously just use that. You can also see over here, there's watches. There's all sorts of other things going on over here. Microsoft Surface. Anyway, so we're gonna double click the name at the top and we're gonna call this one onboarding. So this is actually what I like to do is I'm going to put app really big at the beginning, just so that when I'm using my transitions, it's easy to differentiate my app artboards from the website ones. Cool. I'm just going to add a few graphics to this. I'll get the editor to zoom ahead because all I'm going to do is draw a few circles and stuff. So I'll see you in a sec. All right, I'm back. Drew some circles. Skip next. What is onboarding? I figure I better explain. Onboarding is often that's that part where you launch an app and it kind of tells you it either hypes you up and kind of gives you features, or it'll explain how to use the app. And in this case, this is just going to be hype. We're going to have some onboarding like, your instructor HQ will save you time and will earn you money, those types of things. So I want a few of them. So I am going to duplicate it a couple of times, and it's going to be fine. We're going to have onboarding number 1. Number 2. Number 3, like you'll be kind of tempted at wireframe stage. You're like, oh, add some actual stuff in here, but it's best just to keep it all very vague. Otherwise, you end up in discussions of not so much the kind of, you know, wireframe discussions. You end up in language discussions, and actually, I might pick just some of the real basic colors. Here we go. And I'm going to switch these around. I want you to have the fill of blue, you to have the fill of white, and then the last one, just so everyone knows where they're at. White, blue. There is a point to this video, okay? Some specific stuff to do with phones, or at least apps. I'm gonna do one last page, and it's gonna be my kind of like login page, which I'm gonna go steal in a second. And that one's gonna be blank-ish for the moment, just a placeholder here until I go and make a proper login page, or at least go and steal it. Cool. One of the big differences is with the prototyping. So in this case, I'm going to switch to prototype, and actually we're going to start using a shortcut for that. On a Mac, it's actually weird. It's the same on both. If you hold Control down on both Mac and PC, believe it or not, so the Control key, and hit Tab, it just toggles between design and prototype. Design, prototype, instead of clicking these two or changing it up here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I want to prototype, and when this next button is clicked, okay, it remembers the last thing it did. I don't want it to overlay. I want it to, when it's tapped, I want it to transition, but I want it to slide or push left. Okay, so experiment with both of them to get the feeling. Like they both kind of have different feelings of what's going on. So let's have a look at slide left. I always get slide left and slide right wrong. It's one of them. It's either slide left or slide right. So I'm going to test this, okay? And let's give it a preview. Remember, Command Enter on your keyboard to open up the preview, and it's not going to go to the right page. How do we get it to? You can either click on the name and it will go to whatever page you have selected for preview, or you can set this and that will be the new default, and that's what I'm going to do. So, okay, so I'm going to now Command Return or Control Return on a PC, and now I can go next, and you can see the difference. Instead of just doing a transition, it's kind of sliding it along. To get the idea, it implies that you can slide left and right, and on your phone you can click and drag, which we'll look at later on. You get a ceiling there, kind of like overlaps it and slides over the top. And the push, okay, has a similar sort of feeling. Let's go push left. Push left. Let's have a little look. Push left. Preview. Can you see the whole thing goes across? It's up to you. It's definitely more phone centric though. Okay, and we get to the last page. And what I'll do is I'll get skip to go to skip to the login page. And now we're going to use our sneaky trick we learned before, is I'm going to copy it. And as long as we're in prototype, I can say delete, delete, grab both of these and hit paste. You can see, oh, they all go into all the artboards. There's only 2 of them, but they retain their transition. So now I'm going to preview, skip. Didn't want skip. I did want skip. That's all. It just skips to the end page. So that's one of the differences when you're prototyping a wireframe on a phone. You wouldn't do that when you're prototyping the website. It's just something functionally you can't do on a website. There's, you can do overlays, okay, but you can't get a whole site to push to the right. I've never seen it anyway, and I doubt you can do it technically. You couldn't in the old Flash days. Remember old Flash? Next thing I want to show you is this login page. I'm going to switch back to design view, and I'm going to open up the, so file, open in your UI kits. So if you go to exercise files, UI templates, the wireframes, there's a special one for mobile. So we've been using Wires Web, Wires Mobile. I'm going to open up, and some, like this one's super good and super detailed. Check it out. Cool, huh? So there's UI elements, sign up, onboarding, newsfeed, all sorts of cool stuff already made. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of the sign up ones. I'm going to grab sign up 7. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to jump back to this, and I'm going to paste it, and it's going to end up almost lined up nicely. All right. So what I will do though is I'll grab all of it because I've already linked everything to the login page, so I just want to kind of like drag you across here. Okay, there we go. If you are dragging things across from one artboard to the other, can you see it doesn't want to snap? Okay, I just drag it onto it anywhere, let it go, and then start dragging it around. It'll snap. Now, a couple of things if you are borrowing UI kits. One is you're going to have a messy assets panel. Did anything come across? The arrow came across. It's in there somewhere. It's hiding down here. So you got to decide whether you want to keep that in there or not. What the big thing is that to keep this thing looking from a crazy big, it's not messy, but it's pretty detailed, right? From just keeping it consistent, what they've done is they've trimmed lots of these. Can you see there's a little bit hanging off the bottom? This one here is hanging off the bottom. They've just left the initial view, which is not quite right. Like there's all this stuff down here, which if I preview, let's have a little look. Switch back to my one, shortcut, Command Enter, or Control Enter. If I skip along to the end, I can't get to that bottom stuff. Like there's no way of scrolling down to it. So all they've done is kept it kind of hidden to make that view look consistent. But really what first thing you need to go and do is, if I can find it, there it is there, click on it and just drag. So I clicked on the name and just drag it down, right? So you need to find the end. And remember, it doesn't snap to it. I was going to get it close enough. There we go. So now you can still see the initial views there. See that little dotted line? It's the same as what we had with the desktop view. You can see 667. You don't want to change it, especially on a phone. Okay, but now when I preview it, I can scroll up and down. Cool, huh? Okay, so that's going to be it for our app at the moment. We're going to build more of it out. So just a couple of things to think about when we are mocking up this wireframe for an app. And we can push left or slide left. And if you're using other UI kits, you've just got to make sure that you extend them down as long as they need to be and ensure that their viewport stays the same. All right, let's jump into the next video. Hi everyone, this video is all about testing on our phone. Okay, so we build that little mock-up wireframe of an app, and we don't want to, like, we've been testing so far using this. Remember we went, was it Command Enter? It's over there. I apologize. When I'm facing this way, you can hear me. When I'm facing this way, not so much. The microphone's there. But anyway, we've been testing just on the computer. Remember this thing? Okay, and just kind of skipping next. And that's cool and works, but testing on a phone is so much better, right? So what we need to do is you need a couple of things. You need a phone. It could be Apple or Android, doesn't matter. So an iPhone or an Android phone. You need to have it plugged in. You need a cable. So you can't do it wirelessly at the moment. You'd plug it straight into your computer. Now, be careful with the cables. I've had a trouble, like not all cables will carry data. Some of them are just charging cables. If you've got a cable and it's like taped up and was bad to start with, it's probably not gonna do this thing. So just make sure if it's not working, find a cable that looks legit, okay? Because not all phone, you can't tell. Just plug them in, or some of them will work. So you've downloaded the app, you've opened it up, and it'll ask you to sign in with your Apple ID, not your Apple ID. It'll ask you to sign in with your Adobe ID. So sign in, you'll end up at a screen looking like this. And the one you want to use is Live Preview. So it's kind of the middle one. I click on that. And the cool thing about it is it'll start opening, hey, the screen that I have selected here. So I'm going to close down that. And you can see there's the blue thing. And it's matching on the screen. Watch this, I'll click the other one. Oh, the gray one. And then there's the black one. Is it working? There's the black one. Okay, so it's totally live. So what I'll be doing is I'll have this propped up. I just got my little stand here, okay, and I have it sitting here, and it's constantly open. Remember my desktop view is over there, constantly open on my laptop. I have my phone constantly open there. And the cool thing about it is, especially when you're picking things like font sizes and your logo size, you need to really see it on the phone, not on the monitor here. So it's live, as in, check this out. I'll move it around. Ready? Ooh, it moves around on the screen and it moves around on my phone. Okay, I love it.
What else can you do? This is totally usable. So remember we added that prototyping before? Watch this, next. Okay, up and down. Ah, cool, huh? So we're gonna, like, if you were testing this with a client, okay, and you wanted to show them how it works, you just bring your laptop along, plug this in, and they can actually start using the wireframe. I don't test the wireframes very much, but when we get to, later on in the course, when we do a high fidelity version, this is a great way to do user testing. Little tips is, the main one is 3 fingers. 3 fingers on takes you back to kind of like a screen where it'll ask you things like, you can browse the artboards rather than just like trying to navigate through them. You can actually just see them all. You can save screenshots and share and all sorts of other stuff. So 3 fingers is the only real main one. Okay, you can go back to the demo. Now, there's times where this doesn't work. One is the cable. One is if you've got, so there's 2 things, right? You've got a Mac or a PC. So that's one of the things. You've either got one of those 2. And for your phone, you've either got Apple or, sorry, an iPhone or an Android phone. It's one of those 2. There's some others I know, but they don't work. Okay, but most people have got Macs or PCs, iPhone or Android. That is a Mac. This is an Android. Works perfect. That is a Mac. If I had an iPhone, it works perfect. Okay, so Mac's good. If you've got a Mac, it works on both Android and iPhone. If you've got a PC, a Windows PC, okay, Windows, mention that's a Windows PC, it'll connect to an iPhone, perfect. Do this live plug-in thing. If you've got Android though, no worky. Okay, so there's a workaround, which I'll do in a second, but if you don't have a Windows connected to an Android, you can skip along. Okay, if you, actually everybody hang around because it's actually quite useful, because the problem with this is it's connected, okay? But if you want to have this on your phone so you can be walking around and like meet somebody like, hey, oh man, you should really look at this app that I'm building, okay? You can kind of make it offline and it comes along with the phone. It's not, you know, you're not going to see it update straight from the screen on here, but at least you can take it around with you. So it's good for everybody. You can just take an app around and it's totally kind of usable, but it's the only way if you've got Windows to Android. All right, so let's jump into the computer now and I will show you how to get that working. All right, jump in.
Okay, to make this work, doesn't really matter if you're a poor old Windows person with a Android phone. Actually, they keep changing, like they're updating this software all the time. You might want to double check before you go off and do all this because it might actually just work by now. There might be, yeah, might all work. But even if it does, this is a handy way of not having it connected to the phone, remember, not using a cable, and it means you can walk around with a cool little mock-up on yourself. So to do it, all you really need to do is, or the big thing is File, you need to go either save as, you need to put it into your Creative Cloud Files folder on your machine. So because you've installed XD, you're going to have this file somewhere. On my Mac, it was just installed on the favorites here. On a PC, I'm not exactly sure where it is, but you can check it by going to the Creative Cloud app. On a Mac, it's up the top. PC, it's down the bottom. Go to your preferences, okay, which is a little ... here, and go to preferences. And in here, click on Creative Cloud. So you're on General, Creative Cloud, click on Files, and it should tell you your folder location. So in my case, it's under, I'll show you, where is it? Creative Cloud Files, it's under all of this stuff. So it's under my users, Daniel Scott, sitting in there. You might have to do a search for it, try and find it, and maybe add it to your favorites. On a PC, it's gonna be in a different place. But this is where you wanna save it. So I'm gonna go File, Save As, I've already saved mine. Okay, I've saved it in here, click Save, and what's gonna happen is your Creative Cloud app is going to start syncing. So I'm going to go back from preferences. Down the bottom here, it'll say syncing, 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 syncing. There will be a little icon change for this. It'll look like it's kind of doing something. And eventually it'll be uploaded to the cloud. And that's it. What you can do now is jump back to your phone. I've got it in my hand here, you have to imagine. So load it up and you'll get the option. It'll actually default to something called XD Documents. We've been using Live Preview. If you're still stuck in Live Preview, remember, give it a 3-finger click and you'll be able to kind of go back out of that way back to the home screen. Okay, and on the home screen, it says XD Documents. You might have to refresh it by dragging kind of down on it to refresh it, or closing down the app and opening up again, and I can see my app. There he is there. I can open it and I can use it just the exact same way I was using the live preview. Okay, I can click through it and start working with it. The only difference is that I can't do the live updates. So say I make a change here on my screen and I go through and I move that over there, it's not gonna live update. What ends up happening is I have to do a save, it'll have to sync, and then it will be available. So it's not like a really fluid thing, but it's fine for doing a big bulk test. It's not as exciting as like the full-on next to your computer. It looks fancy as well. People walking past and you're doing stuff on your screen and it's updating on your cell phone. Hardcore. All right, I hope you found that useful. Let's move on to the next video. Hi everyone, welcome to this video of Spot the Difference. What's different between this mockup and the last video? You got 3 seconds. Did you get it? It's this thing here, it's the status bar. Okay, so we've added this for a bit of realism when we're mocking up our iPhone versions. Okay, so I'll show you places to get it from, and yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Let's go get it and add it now. All right, to find all our status icons, a couple of places. For iPhone, which we'll use here, I've downloaded it for you in your exercise files if you want to get it yourself, because I'm going to use the iPhone 8. It's going to be the future when you're watching this, so iPhone 9 or 10 or 11, whatever they call the next one, you might want to get that icon. They haven't changed for a long time, so you might still use it, but you can see in here, File, UI Kits, and you can go to this one that says either iOS, okay, for the iPhone versions, or Google Material, or if you're doing Windows. You can go there, follow the link, download it, but I'm going to cheat, and you can cheat too, because I've downloaded it for you in your exercise files, in UI templates, and we're going to open up Apple. They kind of hide it a little bit. I'm going to use the iPhone 8 options, okay, and open it up. So in UI elements, open that up, and yeah, there's a handy group of stuff that we're not going to use too much in the wireframes, except I want all of this stuff. Okay, so what is it called? What is it called? Because sometimes you're like, oh, what is this called? It's a status bar, but you might not know that language. You can click on it, right click it, say reveal in symbols, and it'll actually, you can see there, it kind of highlighted it. So it's called the status bar. I call it the notifications. Okay, so the status bar here, and it's sometimes just nice to know what Apple calls things versus Google. Okay, and you can see here, this is the light status bar. So I'm going to select it, copy it, move it across, and I'm going to zoom in on this guy, paste it. There it is there. Now it's linking back to that original. Am I that worried about it? For some reason it does bug me that it's connected to another artboard. It's useful when you're doing it, but when it's connecting to something else, I'm going to make it a local symbol, so it's just kind of stuck here. Or you can ungroup it to break it and to make it your own symbol. There it is there, light status bar. We're going to use our trick to copy it across all artboards. And remember, select that at once. Boom, 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 paste. Oh, so good. It's not the only place to go get it. It's probably the easiest, right? But remember, you can go to the Adobe Assets Marketplace and start searching for it now that you know what it's called. Okay, so look for the status bar, and you might look for the one for Windows or Android, easy peasy. Now you'll be like, why are you adding that? Your phone's already got it, especially if you're testing on a phone. It doesn't actually show up. So when you are testing on your, remember the last video we were doing using live preview, it actually deletes, well, it hides everything on your phone and just shows you the mockup. And if you're trying to go for like a realistic look, you want to have those status bars at the top there, but you don't have to. But we need it for this next thing because I want to show you how to do fixed position in the next video. So basically we're doing it so I can show you something else. So add yours and I will see you in the next video. All right, by default, if I preview this login page, I scroll down, watch the status bar, goodbye. Okay, so we just want to fix it. Super easy to do. Click on it, click on that one, then preview it, job done. Easy peasy. I want it to do it to all of these fellas. If you copy and paste it, that little setting will come across, or select them all, turn it on. We'll do it for the navigation as well. It's kind of cool. So I'm going to zoom out. Okay, grab you. I'm holding shift and just clicking these guys once and say fixed positioning. Now I'm going to set my home page back to this fella. Where is he? We're going to move to prototype. What was the shortcut? Anybody remember? It's Control Tab on both Mac and PC. Set the home page so when I preview, goes to the right place and you can see your nav is fixed to the top. Okay, so that is how to do fixed positioning. Nice quick video. Let's jump into the next one. Hey there, welcome to this production video. It's just a video where we need, because at the moment we've got kind of parts of these, we need all the rest of these So a dashboard, a login screen, and we need to connect up all the wires. We're not going to learn anything particularly new in this video. We just need these bits to carry on. So yeah, you can watch me on like double speed if you know how to change the speed of the video, because it's not super exciting. You can even skip it, I'll allow you. But if you're hanging around, let's get started. All right, first up, I want this app. I want to change this. This is actually the sign up page. I called it the login, but this one is sign up. Okay, I'm going to duplicate it, holding down my Option key on a Mac, Alt key on a PC, login, and I want bits and pieces from this. So I want to ungroup it, Command-Shift-G on a Mac, Control-Shift-G on a PC. Grab you, deleting stuff, dragging stuff around, double click the edge, drag it up. There we go, move that down a little bit. Nice. And this little line looks like it it's probably not strong enough. I'm gonna have to, it's fine for the mock-up. Sign up, login, a couple of things. This is a group, okay? So I'm double clicking it to go inside, or you can ungroup it, it's probably easier. So I wanna come down, there we go. Instructor HQ. And I'll double click these, get rid of these guys, and click on this, paste it. Ooh, that was weird. It's because I had the text selected when I copied it. If you're in here and copy it, you just grab the text, but if you click it when it's not all highlighted and copy it, it's very different. So if you're finding that, that's because of that. Don't highlight the text and copy it. All right, next thing I want is my dashboard. There you go, thank you dashboard. Dashboard. And this dashboard actually has none of this stuff on it. I want to get some text like here. I'll copy that. This is actually going to be the instructor. Dashboard. Can't spell again. All right. I'm going to grab this part. There you go. Copy. Down here. Paste. Way too big. It's not far off the right size though. If I go in there. By luck. How many of these I want? I want a few. So I'm going to double click the name, or just click the name once even, drag it down, and I'll sort that out. So that fits in there. Let's pretend it doesn't. Yours is a bit big. So what I want to do, probably the easiest, because it's in a repeat grid, we can't do like responsive, even though it says we can do responsive resize, we can't at the moment. So I need to ungroup it. Grab you guys, bin them. Mine fit. I'm just showing you what you would do if you didn't. Because a nice little trick is if I have them all selected, okay, and make sure responsive resize is on auto. It's on. It's a little slider to the right, and it's auto on. Watch this. When I resize it, can you see it does cool resizey things? Nice, eh? I like it. And a loop. And remember, if it's 1 unit, which it is, I can use this option. And remember, we start using our shortcut. Shortcut's cool. If you can guess what that first little character is there. And on a Mac, it is the Control key. So that is Command Control C. Command Control C. Actually, not even sure what it is for PC. You'll have to hover above it and see. Really handy shortcut. All right, back to our repeat grid goodness. It is late. It is 11:30 p.m. on a Sunday night. Okay, so a little bit tongue-tied there. And let's do one more thing. Let's grab it from the wires one we had. So we had, remember, wires mobile. I'm gonna open that up, and UI elements. I'm looking for the menu. Either those lines, or there's other one they use, like, see this one here with the 3 lines, one short. It's meant to indicate a menu. So I'm gonna double click to go inside, copy it, jump back to my other, paste it in. Grab it. It's hard to grab those 3 little lines. Okay, and it's going to sit up there. It's my little, we're going to use that later on as well. All right, so those are all the bits we need. I'm going to get it to connect all up. So switch to prototype. Remember, Control Tab. So switch to prototype mode, and I'm going to select all to see what I've done. Okay, so I get to here, and when that one's finished, I've double clicked it because it's kind of in part of a group. I don't want that whole thing to go into. That actually would be fine, but I'm going to double click it to go inside the group, and I'm going to say when you are finished, go to here. Tap, transition. I'm going to use that whole app version. Well, instead of a dissolve, I'm going to use, we didn't decide which we're going to do. I'm going to do slide left, looks nicer. And I'm going to do the same thing for this, and it will remember the last thing I changed it to, which is cool. We're going to do a menu a little bit later on when it pushes it across. Give it a quick test to make sure I've got everything. Actually, we have to get this sign up button. That's fine. When you click login though, not the text. So have it selected as like a little, there's a couple of clicks as a group. So click it once, double click, keep clicking, you eventually can select the text. I just want to click it like that. So I get the little arrow so I can say when login button is clicked, jump to sign up. And if you click the sign up button over here, jumps to login. And this one's going to be weird. It shouldn't be slide left. This one should be slide right. I'll show you what I mean. Give it a preview. I'm going to click on sign up. Ooh. Click on sign up and preview. And you can see when I go to login, it makes sense to go that way. But when I go to sign up, it needs to really go the other way. Because if it doesn't, you'll get this when you're preview or when you're testing. If I left it as slide left, it just feels real weird. Watch this. We'll start with sign up, preview, and login. And I go back this way. It goes the wrong way. Okay, I want you to toggle left and right. So let's go use slide right. All right, friends, those are all the components we're going to need to carry on with this tutorial. That's why we need these little production videos. I need this stuff to keep going. We haven't learned anything new. We've practiced some stuff, right? But that's going to be it. It's going to be it for me tonight as well. I'm going to go home, have a sleep, and I will see you in the very next video. You'll be able to check. You'll be like, he sounds heaps better in the morning. Or you'll be like, man, that man needs some coffee in the next video. Can't win. All right, bye now. Hi there. In this video, we are going to show you how to share your prototypes online, email it to people. They can give comments. You can give feedback. It's quick and easy. Let's learn how to do it now in Adobe XD. All right, so it is time to share our wireframes outside of our machine. We've been testing locally. Okay, hitting our command return or control enter, okay, and kind of testing it here. We've got it all working, got the designs going. So my flow is I will send this off now. I'll create a link, which we'll do in a second, and I'll send it to a colleague, somebody that knows me and can go through, and they're not particularly good in terms of user testing. They're not the right people, but they're good just to test the functionality. I want to, because next thing after that is I want to send it to the client, and I don't want it to be broken or something not working or something quite confusing. So I send it to them, I'll send it to Malcolm or Taylor, and they'll go through it for me and give me some feedback on like, hey, you forgot to do this, or that doesn't make a lot of sense. So hopefully you've got somebody you can use for that. If not, use the kind of Facebook group or social media stuff we've been using in the class projects to get some feedback. But yeah, it is ready to go. Like you can test this with actual users. So remember, like say your Maynooth project, your Maynooth furniture, say Katrina. You could find a user that's kind of like Katrina, and you could get them to test the wireframes for feedback. And a lot of people do that. I don't find it as useful. I like just to test the high fidelity versions. I work with the client with the wireframes to make sure all the structure's in there before I go off and start picking fonts and colors and designs and UI design. That's what I use the wireframes for. Quick, dirty, so that when I'm building the kind of nice version that is going to go for Katrina, I can add all the right marketing material, the right colors, the right feel for that user, but I don't often test the wireframes. Up to you. Either way, we're going to create the link. You do it up in the top right here. You click on this like little box with an arrow in it, and you click on this first one here. It says publish prototype. Cool. Give it a name. I spelled mine wrong. Okay, it's taking the name of my actual file up here. So you can just use that. Definitely give it a versioning number. Okay, so version 1.0, because you will do loads of updates. You can decide to allow comments. You can get it to open full screen. I'll show you that in a second. I don't like it opening full screen. It removes the comments and a few other things. Hotspot hints I'll show you. You can require a password. So you can create this public link. This is weird. You got a public link and a private link. The public link is just a URL you can email to anybody you like, and they can add comments. If you add a password, they need to have a password to be able to work with it. The alternative, okay, which is a little weird, you can create a private link. Click on this, does the same thing, generates it, uploads it to the internet, but you actually have to list out via email addresses who can actually access it. So they'll get an email saying, Daniel has sent you a private link. Click here to access, and they'll need to log in with that same email address that you sent the link through. If I send it to malcolm@gmail.com, he'll have to use that to log in. That's what the difference between a private link and a public link. But you can add a password. Anyway, I guess the password's easily shared amongst people, kind of, but private link has to go to those people. Anyway, I'm going to create the public link. Okay, This may take forever. This may be quick. I'm in a pretty slow, I've got satellite broadband, which is average at best, like 6 up. Come on, little satellite broadband, because there's not much images in this, so it shouldn't take too long. I'm surprised, that's pretty good. So once it's done, nothing much happens, right? It's these little icons are kind of weird. They're a strange place for these. Okay, you've got 3 options. This first one here is for embedding the code on your site. So if you're not too sure what embedding is or how to use an iframe on a website, ignore this one. Okay, it's basically you can kind of have your own website and kind of put this in it, so you might be able to brand it. Okay, so I don't use that very often. This one here's the one. This is the money. Copy link. Click on that, and it says link is copied. Okay, this one here will open it up in a browser, just so you can see what ends up happening. What I want to do now is show you my flow. So I'll now create an email and just paste that link in there. Okay, so I'll open up my Gmail and I'll say, here Malcolm, here's the URL, and just paste it in there. I'd love your feedback. And what happens on their side, let me open that up. So I'm gonna open it up in the URL, pretending I am a new person. So this is what they see, and I love what XD have done here. All right, so this is what they will end up in. So they'll need to do one of 2 things. They need to sign in with their, properly sign in, or just as a guest. If they properly sign in, they can use a variety of things. It's pretty easy. Either their Apple ID, or you can explain to them just use your Facebook or Google. Either way, you need to sign in. If they don't want to do that, they can just sign in as a guest. You can see it down here. Super easy. Sign as a guest, give themselves a name. I'm going to be Danielle today. I am not a robot. What is a bus? You'll want to play with me? Bus, bus, bus. Bus. Are we verifying? All right, definitely not a robot. All right, submit. And we are ready to go. So what ends up happening on their side, they can add one of 2 comments. So they can add a general comment just saying, love the design, which they don't because it's just blue with simple things. But you'll notice that will be a comment, and that's just a general comment. Doesn't really, it's just kind of vague for the page. They can be more specific. Okay, so you can say like, should this be login? And you can click, hold, and drag that little pin and say you. Okay, so you can ask questions about specific things. Hit submit. And you can see in here now that 1 matches 1. Makes it really easy to kind of pinpoint stuff and actually talk about those specific things. Other things they can do in here, if they click around, can you see those buttons kind of, if they're like trying to click on stuff that doesn't work, can you see it actually highlights the things that actually do click? Okay, so that was that bit back here where we said allow hotspot hints. Okay, show hotspot hints. You can turn that on and off. They can cycle through it if they don't want to use the buttons, because the actual buttons work, right? I can click on this and it works, which is cool. Or they can cycle through it, go back to home. And that brings up a really good point. If your home is set to another page, which it's likely to be, right? In here, we might have set our home to the app because we're working on it. And what I mean by home is if we're in prototype, I zoom in at the top here, okay, and I click on, not that one there. This is my home page. I've made that the home. So that's the first thing that's going to load in that link. If I change it to down here, okay, that will be the first thing that loads. You'll also notice that because I set my home to up here, do you notice in my link here, I've only got 4 pages. It'll only upload the things that are connected. So it'll connect this page with start trial. It'll have the example because that is linked. So if you have a page like this fella here, he has outgoing links, but nothing going to him from the home page. So the home page is kind of like boss. Whoever you set to the home, it'll upload everything that is connected. If you've got junk just lying around, it will not be part of it. You can see down here isn't. So how do you get around that? What you'll end up doing is one of 2 things. You'll have your app on its own XD document. So you'll create a new one and just copy and paste this over. So you'll have 2. Another way of doing it is I've set this at home. I've generated my published prototype. Okay, got it going. What you can do is I can click on this and you can have more than one. Same artboard, okay, same XD file. I've set that to the home now, and I can say, actually, I want to create a new link. So this one here, I should have named. I didn't. So they're both called Instructor HQ Mockup. So what you should do is call one Instructor HQ Mockup home website and one called app. So I'm going to copy that link and I could send that to somebody else. Let's have a look. And you can see here, this one loads up with the app. And because these apps don't link to the website, we only see these guys. So now you might be like, okay, how do I deal with both of these over here? Because it is kind of weird. It only really identifies one. Okay, so the last link you did, I can go through and update. So the way to work with more than one link like we just did, okay, you can close it down, click on this, and this one here, it says Manage Published Links. Click on that, and it will take you to this page. These are all of my mockups that I've uploaded. Okay, there's the first one, the website version, and then there's the other one, which I named the same. Bad. Can you rename it from in here? You can't. I'd bin it and do it again. Okay, so here you can click on it and I can permanently delete it. Okay, and I just re-upload it using it, giving it some better naming. But here's where you kind of work on all the different parts. Okay, you can see different mockups that I've got. And yeah, from within here, you can actually just click on them and say copy link and share them this way. For you as the creator, it's nice to actually just be able to go into these things. Instead of clicking on the little tick there, just click on them to open them up. And you end up looking at a very similar view. Okay, but this is you looking at it. So let's actually open up the other one. This is the one that I wanted. Cool. So you can see I'm now back being Daniel. You can see Danielle, that's not a robot, has added some comments. And I can come in here and say, actually, that's really awesome. No, this is going to be sign in. I can also make comments. I'll make comments in here as, let me just add that one. I'll make comments in here if I am the owner, just to explain some stuff. So maybe like, hey, this button doesn't work. You can add your own comments. You can say, actually, love the design, thank you, resolve that. Or you can just bin it. Other things I haven't shown you was full screen. Okay, it just goes full screen, which is pretty nice. Okay, the problem is getting out of it. You have to escape. So I find if they're new to it, sending it to the client, I won't do full screen because they don't know how to add comments, they can't see them. Another thing I want to show you is what ends up happening is when people do add comments, watch how they come to you. You don't actually, as a user, they don't come to XD. It's a kind of, I wish they did. I wish they just loaded in here as like little notes, but they don't. So it's quite, it's fine. What happens is they email you. You can see here, you have a new email. You have an email from Adobe XD saying you've got a new comment on this mockup you've made from Danielle and a couple of notes from them. You can click on it, open it. You'll end up at the exact same screen here. You can see what they've asked or done. A couple more things I want to show you is in XD, let's say they've asked about that button. You go off and change it, right? So we're gonna go to design. We're going to go inside, and actually we're not going to change that because it's going to update all of my thing. I'm going to do something a little simpler. Okay, I'm going to change this. They said the button's not big enough. Okay, button's big now. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go into this and publish prototype, and you got to decide what you need to do. Okay, so I'm going to update the link, and that way anybody that's using that link and revisiting that page will see this new change. You can create a brand new link. Okay, so there will be some people with the old version, version 1.0, you can make another version called 1.1 and click new link. I wouldn't want that. I just want that updated. So update it, I'd go back into here and just resolve the thing that said this button's not big enough. I'd click resolve and that would be it. There'd be a nice big button in here. So that's how to update it. One of the other things is, say you're doing an app first design, a couple of things is you definitely want to make sure that this is the home. And then how do you share it? So you can do it. We saw it back in the website version. Okay, it was just a small square in the middle of a browser. To get it to work on a phone, there's a couple of things. You can go into here and say, I want this to open full screen. Okay, I'm going to update it. Then you grab that link. And what you need to do is tell the person who's testing it to copy and paste that link directly into their browser. So if they're using an iPhone, it might be into Safari or Google Chrome. So it's not super smooth. Okay, if they are, or get them to, say you send them an email. Okay, send them an email with a link and say, just tell them, click on this link via your phone's email. Okay, so if they're using email that's both on their desktop, on their phone, click on that link via their phone and open up in a browser, full screen, and they'll be able to test it and add comments. All right, so that's it for sending stuff off to get tested. The simple cut down version is click on this, click prototype, click create public link, and just copy the URL and email it to people. Ask for feedback. You'll get emails explaining what they've done. You can go and resolve it, update it, change it. Yeah, that's how to share a prototype. All right, let's jump into the next video. Hi there. In this video, we're gonna create a video of us interacting with our mockup. So instead of sending them like an interactive mockup, we are gonna do it and just record ourselves both doing it and talking over it. I just send it to them, and it's more like a presentation. Here's the video here. You see me kind of interacting with it there. I'm gonna pause it. So make a video, send it to them, and demo it rather than get them to kind of explore. All right, let's jump in and work out how to do it. All right, so we wanna make a video of ourselves using the mockup, kind of just walking through it and talking through it so that we can send it on to the client. So instead of them trying to like maybe muddle their way through it all, you can just kind of present it. Okay, so to do it, I'm first of all going to move to prototype and just make sure my home button is set to the home page. And then basically all you need to do is you preview it using your normal shortcut. Okay, so we've got this up. And what will end up happening is I'm going to shrink it down so you can see a bit easier. Now this works only on a Mac, well at least this option up here does. There's a workaround for Windows, but for a Mac, there's this little icon. So basically click on it. And you need to remember that it's doing two things. It's recording your screen, but also recording what you're saying. Okay, so remember that. So I'm gonna work through and say, hi, welcome client person. This is our mockup. You can click on start trial. The user can fill in their details. You can click on this start trial button and you just talk through what you've done and why you've done it. Close it down. And when you're finished, you hit escape, or you can click that button again. And magically, XD will save a video for you. I'm going to stick mine on my desktop and put it in here. This one's going to be called, I'm going to use the same name as that, but spell it right. And that will end up with an MP4 that we can share. You can either email it if it's small enough, or you might have to upload it to YouTube and share a link, or Vimeo. Now the Windows users might be going like, hey, I don't have that button. Well, you might do. At the time of this recording, it was only a Mac only option. There's a workaround for Windows. You can hold down the Windows key down your keyboard and hit G. I think you have to have the latest version of Windows and it will launch the kind of native recording software that's on Windows. And then you don't just record this window, it records everything on your screen, but that can work just as well. And it's just really handy when you like instead of having to ask people to work through it, you just kind of like display it for them. I find some clients they don't want to like just let's get through this process, and they want to be presented with ideas rather than them kind of like exploring. The other thing it's useful for is when you actually get to user testing. So you go to a meeting, you meet with somebody remember Catherine for Maynooth Furniture. So we find somebody who's like our user and we sit down in front of them and we kind of present them with this mock-up to start working with, and you just explain to them, I'm going to record you, click record, and ask them to talk through their experience. Okay, and it can be used to go back to the client and say, look, these are some of the results from our user testing. It's a nice, easier way to do that. All right, that is recording your interactions. Let's get into the next video. Hi everyone, it is class project time again. So you have mocked up your Maynooth Furniture wireframe. I'd like you to create your own public link. Okay, I'd like to give it a name, Maynooth Prototype version 1.0. Okay, and I want you to give the link to somebody. Send it to your mum, your son, your brother, just somebody to give you some feedback. Just say it's part of your class and you're trying to learn, and we'd love a bit of feedback. So that you can both help educate them on how they need to do it, because good to give them some instruction to say, hey, here's the link, and I'd love you to add comments, and then just to see the whole process of you getting comments back to you, how they come back, just so you've got that flow going. Also post it in the social groups, so post the assignments here and comments here, and also any of the social media accounts. Okay, Facebook group is a good one. Remember, if you do post one, is to jump in and leave somebody else a comment. So that's a really important one, this one. So instead of just a, hey, that looks great one, jump in and sign in and give them a comment, because then they'll get that feedback from other people in the loop and they'll get an email about it. Okay, and yeah, Super handy. It's an easy one to do. So jump out there, publish it, get some feedback so you get a feeling of how that works. All right, next video. Hi there. This video is all about mood boards. People never know what I'm saying. It's M-O-O-D, your mood, like happy, sad. We want a mood for our designs. We're going to build it in XD. We're going to look at inspiration places, get an idea of the feel, the look, the mood, before we move on and actually start building our high fidelity mockups. All right, let's jump in. All right, so it is time to start with the high fidelity version of our Instructor HQ XD project. And high fidelity just means it's got all the images and it looks exactly how it's gonna look when it's finished. So fonts, colors, images, that type of thing. But before you get started in terms of doing the design, I find it's really useful to create a mood board first. So whether you use this mood board to go to your client and say, this is the kind of look and feel that I'm going for, you know, this is the kind of zone I feel you've communicated to me, or whether you just use it personally. It'll depend on the relationship with the client. Sometimes it is pretty casual and you can go back and say, hey, here's a mood board, and do it pretty casually, just in an email to see where you're on track. Sometimes though, in a larger kind of job, you might have to go back and present concept ideas. Okay, so mood boards will only be used for you personally. So you might have to go back and pick kind of like maybe 3 visual themes for them to pick from. That'll depend on a couple of things, budget, client expectation, those sorts of things. So either way, it's really handy to start with a mood board just to get your ideas and, you know, get inspiration. Now, where do you get it from? Everyone's probably got their go-to place for inspiration. It could be Pinterest, Instagram. I use these places. So I use Behance, Dribble, and Nice with 2 I's, Dribble with 3 B's. Okay, Behance is Adobe's one. It's a really good one. So the cool thing about it is once you've been using it a little while, it starts recommending stuff for you that's kind of in your zone. Once you're in here, so go to behance.net and you can do a search. You can say, I want to find all the kind of UI, UX things. So I might go in here. It's weird, you got to search in this top chunk up here. So if I go UI, and click return, you can see it's just kind of cool UI stuff. Okay, and you end up just kind of loading, you're like, oh man, I really like this. Maybe just the colorways or the kind of squiggly thing is you find the bits you want, and I just do screenshots. Okay, so on my Mac, it's Command-Shift-4, and it just does a big old screenshot around it, and that'll save it to my desktop. If you're on a PC, we talked about this earlier, can't quite remember off the top of my head for a PC. Or you can right-click these guys and start saving the images in places. Up to you. So once so this is one place, right? We've got Behance. Dribble with 3 B's is another really useful place. Same sort of thing in here. Just go through, open up loads, lots of screenshots. So Nice, you can do a search. I did a search here for UI. The cool thing about Nice is that once you like it, you can say, I want to add it to one of my boards. So you can hit plus, and you can say, I want to add them to my board. You create boards, and you can add to them. So it's like a little collection, a little group of stuff. So you say, actually, I want to add that to it. Okay, so it's free for the first couple of boards. Okay, and you say, I want to add that to this passive HQ board, just some random board I had. And then you can open up that board. There's all of my boards. There's the passive HQ one. Okay, and I click on it, and it will load them up in a cool, nice little collection. It's really pretty. Watch. All right, here's my passive HQ board. You can see it's got very kind of, like, even though I thought I was picking random stuff to go in, it all has a very similar kind of colorway and very kind of look to it. And what's really nice about this is you can export this as a PDF, and it's just a very good, you can link this to people, so you can send it to your client and say, this is what I'm thinking. And also, like, there might be bits where you're like, actually, that there is very large, and you're like, actually, I just want it to be smaller, actually even smaller. Hold Alt to reduce. There you go. So holding Option on my Mac, and I can just keep making it smaller until it's like not such a significant part. And then you can say that I'd like it to be a really big part of the feel of this kind of mood board. So those are some cool ways of getting ideas. Nice is a nice way of getting them all together. But what you might do is just do what I do here in XD is we're going to just dump them all on the page so that we can always see them rather than being on this like separate website. So before we move on, we're not going to upgrade our wireframe. I don't often do this. Like the wireframe was good and it's been, you know, clients approved it and they love it, and we need to move on to the high fidelity version. You could just start switching out these colors for images and stuff. I don't want to do that. I want to start with a new document. I like starting fresh again. So we're going to start with a new document. We're going to make it this web 1920 again. We're going to name this artboard. We're going to call this one homepage. We're going to save this. We're going to save it to our desktop. And we're going to put it in that same folder, but this one here is going to be our IHQ. This one's going to be our high fidelity, hi-fi. This one's going to be version 1.0. I click save. And what I end up doing is I've got all my screenshots, right? I've already done a bunch of them. Okay, they are in your exercise files or in images. And I just put them all in here in this mood board. I'm going to open that up. So there's a bunch of screenshots. Okay, what I like to do is just grab all of them. Actually, grabbing all of them runs into a small little problem. I'll show you in a sec. So I grab them all and I dump them all into XD. They kind of zoom off into the edge there. Can you see? They've kind of zoomed off all that side. So you can select them all. So I've just gone edit, select all. I'm just going to drag them all across. And I'm going to shrink them down. Remember, hold shift to scale them down proportionately. That's why I kind of drag in maybe 10 at a time or 5 at a time. And now what I'm going to do, I'm zoomed way out. I'm making myself like a caveman move board. It's not as pretty as the nice one, but it's going to work. And I'm going to have it small enough so I can see it kind of just up here. So when I'm designing, I'm kind of like taking notes, pulling colors from and looking at font compositions and the hierarchy of type, all from these kind of style guides that I've got that both me and the client have gone, yep, that's kind of where we want to go with this. So I find that mood board just up here is just as handy. Now, one or two other places you can look for ideas, especially if you're new to UI design, is in the Adobe Market. So under your Creative Cloud app, remember up the top here on a Mac, down the bottom on a PC, go to Assets, Market, where it says Featured, drop that down. If you've got a search already going in here, you might have to click cross there. Go to the Featured and go to this one that says User Interfaces. So there's a lot in here free to use. And the cool thing about this is not only is it like visually quite cool, but they're actually usable things like UI kits in here that you can actually start using the buttons for. You're allowed to use them commercially. I'm scrolling, you can see there's just loads of them in here, which is a cool way to go. Or just hit up Google and type in UI kits, K-I-T-S. And there's ones you can pay for and ones you can buy. You might use that kind of inspiration to get started because it's really specifically UI. And not only is it just like they kind of home pages, it'll have all the nitty gritty like ticks and checkboxes and edits and form fields, and it has a little bit more going for it. All right, so we've got our visual kind of idea, our mood board going. Let's move on to the next video. Hi everyone, it is class project time. This one is about generating your own mood board for Maynooth furniture. So go out, look at any inspiration sites you like. It could be competitors to the furniture industry, or it could be the things like Behance or Dribble or Nice, and build a mood board. And I want you to kind of stack it into XD like this, just above it. So you're going to create a new page, okay, brand new homepage for your high fidelity version of Maynooth furniture. Dump all the images in, and then once you've done it, I'd love for you to share a screenshot. So do a screenshot of your mood board like this, just kind of like whatever you've got, and then I want you to share it via the regular ways, okay, on the assignments panel, in the comments, or in social media. I'd love to see everybody's theme, and it'd be interesting to see how that develops into your kind of final product as well. All right, so that is your class project. Go off and do that. And once you're finished, I will see you in the next video. Hi there, this video is all about creating something called a baseline grid. Some of you will know what that is, some of you won't. Basically, it's lots of squares like this to add a bit of visual consistency where things start lining up, allowing the design to kind of breathe a little while you're working. Everything has its place, everything's lined up nicely. Let me show you how to make one and why you might use one. All right, so we've done a little bit of this before, but we're going to go into a little bit more detail now, especially with the grid, okay, and something called a baseline grid system. So let's do the columns first because they're easy and they just kind of recap. So I'm going to click on my Word homepage. I'm going to say I want a grid, I want it to be layout, I want it to be, I'm going to turn it to 1, and I want to make sure that it's my 1366 wide. Okay, so then I know I'm kind of within those gaps. If you do then want to use a 12 column grid, which a lot of designers do, you can type it in there and just use this kind of columns to add a little bit of consistency throughout the web pages. I don't want to add consistency for this particular one. Also, you can do 6, doesn't have to be 12. Okay, it can be 4, just something that's easily divisible. Okay, but I'm just going to use one. Now we're going to introduce this thing called a baseline grid. So you can have both a layout and a square grid, okay, both of them. And I'll show you what they are. Basically, if I zoom in here, you'll see that at the moment I've got a square grid, okay, and it is a 4 pixel grid, okay, and I think my colors are, the opacity is quite high. I'm going to turn it up to really strong so you can see it a little clearer on the video. So basically what I've got now is XD said I'm just going to give you a guide, okay, every 4 pixels I'm going to draw a little square. And it just allows you when you're designing to add some consistency. We're going to cover this more and more because it's not a hard topic, but it comes more obvious later on when we're working through fonts and a few other things. And you don't have to use a baseline grid, but I'll show you what it does. I'm going to switch to our old version of the wireframe. Okay, and in here, I'm going to click on the name and do the same thing, turn on the square grid. And I'm using 8 here, okay, instead of 4. And what it's going to allow me to do is, can you see there's no consistency? Can you see this one kind of, see the lines here? That one kind of, they're all just kind of over the place. And I'll show you what I'd end up doing. I'm going to double click to go inside. And what I want to do is I want to try and adjust this so that it'll snap. Okay, so it starts snapping to these grids so that you've got at least some sort of like consistency across these guys. So I'm going to click on him, drag him out so he's lining up. And you can see now there's a bit of, it's just one of those things. If you're new to design, when I first started in design, I was like, why would you bother with all the grids? But then after a while, you start realizing there's just I don't know, when things start lining up and are kind of consistently left and right lined up, there's a relaxing of the design, kind of like takes a breath and kind of goes, oh, okay, everything kind of lines up, which is nice. But for a long time, I just didn't care, but I do now. Okay, you can see here, I want the spacing is, I want this to be consistent with this. So I'm going to go into this one and just bring it in, especially if you're not using columns. A grid system is really handy just to lock it all in, make sure the type's all locked in. You can use your arrow key to type it around. Are you starting to feel me? That's just a quick little introduction of what you use a baseline grid for and why you'd bother. We're going to turn it on in this version. We're not going to have it so dark. And now what size should it be? And we'll look at this later on, but basically divide whatever your body copy size in by half. That's going to make life a lot easier. So I'm going to use 16 point for my body copy. I know that because I use 16 point on everything. If you don't know yet, don't worry, you can change this later on. But I'm using 16 point, so I'm going to divide it by 2, which is 8 pixel squares. And I'm going to turn this down so it's not so deafening. Visually deafening. I'm going to introduce a couple of shortcuts. I might have done this before, but it's Command, Shift, and apostrophe will turn on the layout. Okay, so these kind of like giant column. If you do just Command apostrophe, it turns on the grid. So you end up kind of toggling that on and off quite a bit. So I'm just holding down my Command key, which is Control key on a PC, and just clicking the apostrophe key, and just I turn this on and off all the time to get things to line up. If you can't get yours to work with that shortcut, it's whatever appears. These are the 2 that you want on your computer. And you can see in my case, just Command apostrophe. All right, so I've created my columns. I've created my grid system. What I'm gonna do as well before I go is I'm gonna turn it on and I'm gonna set it, I'm gonna make this the default. So whenever I make a new page, it's gonna do this. Same with the layout. I'm going to make this the default so that every new page has this. If you decide to not move on with the grid, I'll understand, it's okay. But for now, let's jump into the next video.
Hi there, I hope you enjoyed the video. My name is Daniel Scott. If you would like to do the full course, there'll be a link in the description for that. Please give this video on YouTube here a thumbs up. It really helps me and what I'm doing. Also consider subscribing to the channel. I release a video like this every week for your viewing pleasure. All right, bye.